He's trading in his he's trading in his Chevy for a Cadillac. You ought to know by now. What is the best Billy Joel song, and why is it Anthony's song? Like, I will not hear literally any argument against that. Also, shout out to Billy Joel. What a rock star! What a badass, right? I don't know. I've been on a really big Elton John or Billy Joel kick lately because I was listening to something. What was I listening to last night? There's this really amazing Mega Man 3 Proto Man theme remix that my good friend Cider had shared with me last week, and I've been putting that on like repeat on YouTube. And when autoplay goes, it goes through like a playlist of things I listen to, and for some reason it put me on an Elton John kick. And yeah, dude, Anthony's song forever. But aside from that little bit of what is that, 1980s pop, 1990s pop trivia. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to another episode of The Good, The Mab, The Ugly. I am, of course, your host, Mab. Some of you might know me as Spencer. Either way, you know me as the handsome host of this show, the handsome editor-in-chief of Bounding Into Comics. And I would like to welcome you guys back to another episode where of The Good, The Mab, The Ugly. I know I'm sort of retreading myself, and there's an explanation for that. I'll tell you guys in a second. But yes, welcome to The Good, The Mad, The Ugly, the show where I give you guys, we all take deep dives together into topics that might not get discussed around our sphere. So things like anime, manga, cartoons, all that sort of fun stuff. That's what you get when you hang out here. So welcome, everybody. I am happy to hang out with you. So to that point about me being, again, a little discombobulated, I am exhausted this week. I don't know how all of your guys' weeks are going. I hope it's really going well. But what was it? Sorry, I'm just popping out the chat so I can make sure I can see what you guys are all saying for the show. But yeah, this week, I don't know if you guys knew or if anybody cares, but Dragon's Dogma 2 came out, right? And Peter Pischke, who you guys might know, he's a really good independent reporter. He's been around in our sphere for a long time. He's been writing for Bounding Into Comics lately, doing video game reviews, and he got his hands on it, and he wrote this this incredible review, and I had to edit it and get it out, like, in that window so that we could hit the, like, SEO wave, right? And that just kept me up until, like, 4 a.m. on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and then I've just been trying to stumble recover ever since then. So bear with me if I seem like I have a little lower or a little less energy today, but my lack of energy, my temporary border exhaustion is no excuse for not having a show. So yes, I wouldn't skip out on Fridays for the world. That's, I host a show so that we can all have a good kickoff to our weekend, and I'm not going to deprive you good folks of that. So yes, today, our topic, we are continuing our mutant rundown with X-Men 97. It is actually out. We'll talk about the first couple of episodes. There's also been a major Spider update, I guess you could call it. There was a recent preview issue that got released, and we will talk about that because we have to. Who do you think is in it? Who do you think is in it that makes me like, I need to talk about this? So we're going to get to that. And then aside from that, like I said, it's been sort of a weird week. It's a little bit of a slower week. Oh, we'll obviously talk about the Kotaku stuff, but in the interest of it being a little bit of a slower week, obviously, if you guys have anything you want to talk about, throw it out there. Obviously we'll tangent through this show like we always do. But if there's anything you guys, want to talk about, you think I'm missing, shout it out. Let me know. We'll be happy to do it. And I'm here for you guys, and I'm here for the show, and let's get to it. But before we dive into anything, of course, let's say hi to the chat, to all of my good friends who decided to show up this evening. We have number 1, Zero, says, I is here. How is it going, Zero? Guys, I know you've heard me recommend his channel before, his Twitch channel. Go check out Zero on Twitch, twitch.tv /0_dozer. And I bring it up because all week he's been playing Resident Evil 5, and I forgot how weird that game is, right? It's not bad per se. It's weird because it starts, like, when you start that game in Africa and you're, Chris and Sheva, and you do those early missions, it feels like an evolution of Resident Evil 4. You know what I mean? Like, we are building upon the last game. We're giving you something that's a little reminiscent, but we're adding, like, yeah, let's keep going. But then by the time you get into, like, I don't even know what the right term for it is, like the swamps, like you get out of the cities. What city is it? It's not Mumbai. That's Halo. But yeah, in RE5, once you get out of the cities, it's just RE4 again. Like, you're going up dilapidated ruins. You're fighting, like, people who just throw projectiles at you all the time, who speak in gibberish. Like, and I mean gibberish because they're just moaning Plagas like groans, right? Like, that's literally what I mean. So it's fun. Like, I like RE5 a lot. I love Sheva. I think she's a great character. Like, yes, she's hot, but I also think she's just a good character, and I really wish they would bring her back because that's the only time she's appeared in like anything. But yeah, there's a level in that game, and Zero, you were playing it a couple days ago, where you're on a tanker ship, or not a tanker ship, what's the right term? Like a container ship. And you've got to like make it through the boat, and like there's a bunch of like puzzles where you got to like make crates go up and down and slide and then go under them and go up and back, stuff like that, right? When I want to say like 21, 22, yeah, I think it was around then. Might have been a little bit later, but my buddy and I, one of my best friends, shout out Mike. I don't know if you're watching, but yeah, shout out to you, buddy. You'll know the story well if you are. But we were playing RE5, and it was one of those sort of weekends where it's like, you ain't got no job, you ain't got no girl, you ain't got nowhere to be. What are we gonna do? And so we decided, hey, let's do a whole big Saturday session. We are going to get really drunk, have a lot of junk food, and we are going to play Resident Evil 5. And we're just going to blitz through this thing because neither of us got to play it yet. And so we start playing, and we're drinking, and we're having fun. By the time we got to that container level, we were just so drunk that literally we didn't know where to go. Everything looked the same. We couldn't tell if we were actually like solving any puzzles. We were just like, have we been here before? I have no idea, man. Like, it was so bad. And then to that point, like, we were like, all right, we're done with this game for tonight, blah, 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 blah. We went off and did whatever else. And when we woke up the next day and went back to play it, we were like, that was not nearly as hard as we made it out to be. How drunk were we? All that to say, yeah, first of all, go check out Zero. He's always streaming something interesting. Again, Zero's one of the few people I know who, like, streams other stuff and not just flavor du jour, right? I think the closest he gets to flavor du jour is like, oh, a game has been announced in this series. I'm going to go back and play the first like 4 or 5 or whatever, right? So you get a lot of good, it's not nostalgia, but like you get to go back, like, you know, and like catch some things you might have forgotten in all these old games. But yeah, more to the point, RE5, fun game, leaves a lot to be desired, even though it is fun. But then again, when you get to the end and you get Chris punching the boulder and you get Wesker going full like Monster Man, all right, now you've got me back. But it's too little, too late. You've already gone through your RE4 ripoff section of the game. We have Ravul saying, "Hail chat, hail Ravul, how's it going, my friend?" Andrew is saying the stream is so gay, even Glad is asking WTF. Elton John sounds more plausible. Yeah. Andrew, it's actually funny, on this note, so you use the same, what is it? Like the meme, the GIF, like that I love using and nobody else uses it anymore, but it's the, where are they? It's like the African newscaster, right? And he was like, we're here to talk to like a homosexual today. Question. Why are you gay? Like, it's the best, it's the dumbest interview of all time, but the fact that you use it all the time, I don't know, it makes me laugh a lot. So, shout out to Andrew for being meme-brained, I guess you could call it. We have Timon in the house saying, hey, yo, Spencer, hey, yo, Timon, how's it going, my friend? Always a pleasure to see you on a Friday night. Ravul says, Mutsumi Inomata, an illustrator who served as the main character designer on a number of mainline Tales of series titles, passed away on March 10th at age 63. Yes, she did. It is a heartbreaking story. We are covering that for Bounding. It is currently in the hands of Nerdigans. You know her. She's not going to just give you the, death announcement. She's going to go into it, give you details, mangaka opinions, history of her work, all that sort of fun stuff. So, to that end, yeah, so we are covering it. An article will be coming. But yeah, absolutely heartbreaking that we lost her. The Tales series it's got some amazing character designs. I mean, to me, I know this is so Tales normie, I guess you could call it. But, the Tales of Symphonia crew, they look incredible. They always stand out to me as just some of the best defined characters in that series. Now, I don't know if that was her specifically, but I know that her style sort of inspired and helped create the aesthetic for Tails. And to that point, like, Tails has a lot of sexy ladies, and she designed a lot of them. So, you know, that's one of those huge wrenches that goes into the sort of sex negative narrative that we have coming out of both sides of the political spectrum nowadays, right? Like, you know, women like sexy characters that, you know, we talked about this last week, and I think a couple weeks before, but there's that concept of power fantasies, right? For men, where the one I always brought up was, and this one's not exclusively for men, but the one I always bring up is wouldn't you want to be like the Punisher and go save a bunch of people who are like genuine bad guys who are beyond redemption? Like, we all have that fantasy once in a while, right? Blah, blah, blah. And like, everybody has power fantasies. Yeah, some guys have like, we look at Cap or we look at Spider-Man or whatever, and we look at that as a, like, what is that? Maybe not power fantasy, but like an ideal. Like, oh, we want to be like, that's so cool. That's what women do with sexy ladies too. Again, I'll point to Bayonetta. I'll point to Tales of. I'll point to like half the manga on the market, right? Like, the ladies like the sexy, so stick it in your craw. But yes, all that to say, it is a genuine loss that she is gone. It's heartbreaking too, because what am I trying to say here? There's that not turn of phrase, but that like superstition, right? That deaths always come in threes. So whenever you hear like a big celebrity death, you're at least going to hear two more. And that generally holds pretty true. And unfortunately, we're hitting this like stride right now where we're going to start losing a lot more of the people who are like really, really, really influential to our generations specifically, right? I mean, just look at, you know, we lost Toriyama. Then we lost, what's her name? Like Takeo. I always forget how to say her stage name. But the voice actress for Chibi Maruko-chan, she died like a couple days after Toriyama of natural causes. And now we have, we have Mutsumi passing. If we want to sort of stretch the bubble a little bit and include another one, we had the sexy Tanaka-san mangaka who committed suicide. Like, it's rough, and we are getting to that point where we're going to start seeing a lot of these influential creators pass. And I don't know about you guys, like, I'm definitely not ready for it. Like, I think like when Michael Jackson or like when Farrah Fawcett died, that was probably the first time when I was like, whoa, that's somebody like I recognize, you know, not just somebody I know, I've heard on TV in passing, but like I know his music. I've seen her in TV shows and movies. Like, that's crazy. And now we're just going to keep hitting that way more. And through all of it, don't worry, Togashi will survive. Even though that guy has all the health problems, I guarantee he's going to live to be like 4 billion years old. He will be the old mangaka on the mountain who like you pilgrimage to and you receive his wisdom. Oh, pardon me. Shinkai is here saying snicked. Yes, we will snicked. Surprisingly, not a lot of snickting in these first 2 episodes. I was genuinely surprised by that, but we will get into that. Don't worry about that. Andrew says everything looked the same. Not all black people look alike, Mav. Look, they do if you turn off the lights. All right, everybody looks the same when they turn off the lights. Why do you have to divide, Andrew? Why can't we come together over our shared lack of imaging in dark spaces? Eccentric Banana is in the house. What's going on, amigo? Always positive. We're always very happy to see you. Yeah, Andrew, that meme doesn't get enough love. It really doesn't. Like, it's so perfect. The guy's like, facial reactions, the guy being like earnestly trying to explain his position. I love it so much, and I'm so happy that you use it, because I regularly use that voice clip, like the "Why are you gay?" and nobody, like, maybe like 5% of my friends recognize where that joke comes from off the cuff. So kudos to you for stealing my heart, Andrew. Let's see. Talem says, recently watched Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City movie. Surprised that it wasn't terrible, but an okay one. Which one was Welcome to Raccoon City? Because, like, here's where I get confused now, because I know all the Mila Jovovich ones, because Mila Jovovich is, like, my waifu of all the Hollywood waifus, it's Mila. So I know all those movies, and then I get lost when we start going to the like 3D CG movies, right? Like I think one of them's called like Dead Island or something. Yeah, I don't know any of those ones. And then isn't Welcome to Raccoon City the new one, the one that they did that has like not Chris. Gosh, I'm forgetting his name in it. But yeah, that was the newer one they did, right? So I heard that one was. I actually don't remember what I heard about that one because that one came out right around the same time as the god awful Netflix series, and so yeah, everybody was more focused on that. Like I was more focused on that. The thing was awful. But yeah, so like I've never checked out Welcome to Raccoon City. I'm glad it wasn't a complete shithole of your time, right? Like at this point in media and entertainment, it's like if you can get out of something without having just immediately gone, I hated everything about this, then you got some sort of positive win, right? You got to look at the brighter side. Let's see. Yeah, Taylor says some of my favorite manga are by women, but also enjoy manga by the guys as well. Oh, I mean, yeah, that's not even what we're talking about. There's no gender skill gap or whatever between mangakas. It really is just like my point was just women do like drawing sexy ladies. They like thinking of them as sexy, beautiful women. Nobody has the power fantasies of being ugly or less than attractive, right? We can all live that every day. I can live that. I'm looking at myself right now in my monitor window. Like we can live that every day. If I want to, be big and muscular and able to jump over buildings, let me have my Spider-Man, right? Let's see. Urza, Satilizer, Balalaika, love me some strong women, or like Spike would say, I like a woman that can kick my ass. Oh my god, Shinkai, you and I, like, I already know this from us, like, liking each other's posts on Twitter, but yeah, you and I are very much of the same taste in waifus. Like, I'm right there with you, but also, like, that line, when Spike said that in Knocking on Heaven's Door, I love me a woman who can kick my ass, as soon as I heard that, it was like an epiphany moment where I was like, that's it. Now I know how to, like, put what I like into words. And so, what was that? That was like 2005, right? I've been saying that line for the better part of 2 decades now. And yes, like it genuinely, I love strong women. I want a woman who can kick my ass. Like that sounds very, very appealing to me. Okay, here we go. Revul's got me. Inomata's past works include Destiny, Tales of Destiny, Eternia, Tales of Destiny 2, Rebirth, Tempest, Innocence, Hearts, Graces, Zilla 2, Zestria, Basuria, and Crestoria. So I'm going to have to be honest with you guys. I don't know a lot of the Tales series. I played, I think, Zillia and obviously Symphonia. I think, is Basuria the new one? What was the new one with the pink-haired girl and the guy with like the blue scarf and the like white hair, right? Like it's the newest one. Is that a Rise? Oh, I think that might be a Rise. But yeah, it's not that I don't like them. I do like them. It's just I never. When you're a kid, you tend to typically, unless you are of a what's the right term here? Unless you're of a better pedigree or a better palate, and I mean that genuine, like generally, and you'll understand what I mean in a second. But unless you actually have like expansive tastes and you know what you're doing and you have maybe somebody to help facilitate things, when you're a kid you end up like going down like, I'm going to be a Dragon Quest kid, I'm going to be a Final Fantasy kid, I'm going to be that, and then you might like branch out when you get older, right? But as a kid I was a Final Fantasy kid and I branched out into Dragon Quest, and I never got around to Tales. They weren't as accessible, especially in the earlier days, because they were so niche. And then by the time they started coming out en masse for the PS3, I think I've mentioned this. I think I've mentioned this fact to you guys before. But when I got to college back in 2008, I like stopped playing video games, not because I didn't want to, but because I just did not have the time anymore. And that's not me being like a special case, right? Like that's anybody. You get to college, you have classes, you have a social life now. You've got, I had jobs. There was just too much. I had a band to go practice in. There was way too much going on for me to be able to sit down and like dedicate time to playing a video game. I got I like dug really, really, really into old, like all these like old archives of comics in college, because those are easy to sit down. You know, I have a lunch break, 10 minutes, I can read 2 or 3 issues of Action Comics. Well, like whatever, right? Like pretty fast, and then off I go. But with video games, you got to like sit down, like dedicate yourself. The only games I played truly in college were Smash Brothers Brawl, because that was the communal event that we all did in the dorms and then in our apartments. I played Halo 3 ODST one weekend, and that was another one of those weekends where me and another buddy were like, we have nothing to do, let's just get really drunk and we'll play a video game, and we blitzed through ODST. I played Pokemon Heart Gold because that was like an extension of Brawl. It was like the communal event. Everybody played Pokemon at school, so that's how we would pass our time. And then what was the other thing I played? Oh, and then I played Arkham City, and that like was basically, and then Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but that was different. That was like an actual like thing, like a hobby. Like I was competitive with it. Like I would go and I would meet friends at the arcade after class every day, and we would play that. But to that long-winded point, I'd never, like, that was the era of Tales like really hitting its stride and being accessible, and I just wasn't around for it. So I keep meaning to get back into them, but backlogs are intimidating, right? So maybe, you know what? I know Andrew is a fan of Tales. Obviously, you are, Ravul. Recommend me one. Recommend me, because I know that you can sort of just, drop in wherever you want with these. You know what I've played: the Zilla, Basuria, Arise, and Symphonia. Drop me your favorite one. I will check it out. Again, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that never had really the chance. And you got to facilitate that with me. Not Square, Bandai Namco. Do you remember, this is a slight aside, but because I said Bandai Namco, it reminded me. Do you guys remember when they made the Soul Calibur for the PSP? Yeah, I think it's called Broken Sword, or like Soul Calibur, I don't remember what it is. But PSP version of Soul Calibur, and the guest characters were Kratos and Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia. It was so weird, but I was like kind of about it, even though they didn't try to make Lloyd. I guess you shouldn't, because would it really be Lloyd if he wasn't an anime-looking kid and he was an actual modeled character? I don't know, but it's one of those, like, I have a giggle every time I see it, because it's like, you don't belong here. Let's see. Eccentric says Michael Jackson and Robin Williams for me. Oh, I forgot about Robin Williams. See, Robin was one that hit really hard, but that wasn't one of the first ones. You know what I mean? Like Michael Jackson, that's like 2007, and Robin was like 2010, 9, a couple years later. But yeah, those two were both really, really, really hard. I don't. When Michelle Nichols is she gone? Let me double check this before I put my foot in my mouth. Yeah, okay, she did. When Michelle Nichols died 2 years ago, that one hurt pretty bad, because I'm just like, you're Star Trek, like I've known you, you're Uhura, like that. Wow, I can't believe it. Like you're just gonna be gone, like you're just not around anymore, and it's weird, right? Let's see. Oh yeah, you guys were all trading stories about Tales. See, this is what I want. Talk about Tales. I'm glad you guys know. Yeah, okay, Andrew, I was right. It was Tales of Arise. That's that. And then yeah, Ravul's got me. Tales of Arise is like Final Fantasy 13, a hallway with bosses. Last good Tales great game, according to Timon, was Tales of Grace. Ravul says Tales of Berseria. Dante, hey, how's it going, amigo? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the party. And then Timon says, once you played a Pokemon game, you've played them all. Yes and no. And I only say no in one specific case there, Timon, and that is the case of Gold and Silver. Because Gold and Silver, like, the fact that you can go, like, yes, the mechanics are it's mechanically it's Pokemon, but it lets you do so much, and it makes you feel like you're in such an expansive world, because it lets you go back to the first continent. And it's so you sort of, you play Gold, and then it goes, oh, by the way, would you also like to play Red and Blue? Go have fun. Go at it, right? And so, like, with that and all the sort of, like, experiments they did with the different balls and the day-night system, all this sort of stuff, Gold and Silver and Crystal remain, at least to me, this different, superior Pokemon experience. To this day, pardon me, I think one of the biggest issues I have with Pokemon to this day, we've talked about this a lot, whether it's been on Andrew's Sunday streams, or it's been on the 01 stream, or it's been in various chats like with WW Pro and Jonas Campbell. Like, oh no, now I totally forgot what I was going to say because I was totally obsessed with trying to remember all the people I've talked about with this. So with that, yeah, when it comes to Pokemon, a lot of them are mechanically similar, but I think Gold and Silver and Crystal, they stand out sort of as that is the Pokemon experience. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. Yeah, as I've discussed in all those conversations and all those streams, I hate, like, yes, I do not like where the Pokemon Company has taken Pokemon. I don't like the current state it's in. I don't like any of that stuff. But I think one of the big things that really always just gets me is that they've never really properly brought back that day-night cycle. And that just, it's such a simple thing that opens up so many different gameplay experiences, right? Like, again, not only do you have the main map of Johto, but you have the Johto map at night. You have Kanto map, and then you have Kanto map at night. And those changes bring about different Pokemon, different interactions, different trainers, different side quests, different things like that make you really feel like you are in a living world rather than go to A, go to B, go to C, go to D. Congratulations, here's your credit scene. And that's kind of how I feel a lot of the games have been sort of ever since. And it's not great. It's not great. Oh, awesome. Here's Andrew saying, Symphonia, yep, Vesperia, Zillia 1, Arise. Those are the must-plays. Abyss and Legendia are overrated, and anyone who says otherwise is a putz. Yeah, so I got Symphonia. I think I said I got Vesperia. Definitely got Zillia, and definitely played Arise, didn't finish it. So it looks like I'm at least hitting the greatest hits. I guess if I want to take my cred to the next level, now I have to go to the not obscure titles, but not lesser, no, what the hell am I trying to say here? The less than critical darling entries. Yeah, there's a term here, and I think we all know it, and somebody's going to drop it in the chat eventually, and I'm going to feel like a big dum-dum once I do. I already feel like a big dum-dum, but that will just solidify it. Dante says, at a horror convention and waiting in line to get a picture with Clive Barker. Oh my god, that's awesome. What are you even doing on YouTube? Go be in line, go hang out, go say hi to Clive. By the way, Dante, did you apply for a press pass? Because you probably could have gotten one. In case you guys don't know, Dante is our new horror writer over at Bounding Into Comics. He's done some great work so far. He has some stuff in the cooker that I can only just preview and say is great. So yeah, dude, you probably could have gotten a press pass if you'd just applied. I think the main thing with a press pass is that they just need an editor or like a site administrator to verify that you work for them. I'm right here. Like, I don't got a lot going on. You know, you can hit me on Slack anytime. Let's see. Timon says Tales of the Abyss. And whoa, there we go. Now we're going to clash. You're going to clash with Andrew. I guarantee you are, because that's one of the ones he says was overrated. And then Arise is a snore fest. Yeah, Arise was fine. I should probably go back and revisit it. I think I just wasn't in the mood for that kind of game at the time. I don't remember what I was in the mood for, but yeah, like I would give it another chance. But if I had to give you my review right now, you know, on the spot, gun in my face, I'd say it was fine. It was Corridors, right? It was 13, and I'm not the biggest fan of 13's gameplay. I like the characters, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of that gameplay. Grace's F is trash. That's one of those. Aren't there like 7 different titles in Tales that have like an F or like an S ending, and they're different? Like, I get lost there. That's what. And again, I'm not saying it's too confusing or it's ridiculous or whatever. Like, I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan. I know how that goes. I'm a Sailor Moon fan. I know they name their seasons the same. There's literally Sailor Moon Super and then Sailor Moon Super S, and they are 2 different seasons with 2 different plots. And it's why would you do that? So I'm not saying it's dumb. I'm just saying, like, once you get to like Grace's F, because I don't know that much about the series, my brain just goes like, we can't try and make sense of what Grace's F is because we don't even know what the hell Grace's is. And then Timon says Grace's is miles better than Arise, is like, because it's Grace's and then Grace's F, right? Like that's two different games, or is it, or are they one and the same and I'm just confusing it? Yeah, Shinkai. Catch Pokemon at night, buy a Pokeballs at night. Oh no, I lost a battle at night. Yeah. No, I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds just normal, but it's so much fun being like, oh, finally, it's nighttime. I got to go to this route so I can get this specific Pokemon. Or, oh, it's daytime. I got to go to this city because now I can talk to this NPC and do this quest. It's Pokemon Gold and Silver Crystal. It's a very, if I had to draw some sort of analogy, it's a very streamlined, less intensive version of the setting of Majora's Mask, right? Where things are always happening, whether you interact with them or not, and what you do interact with can change what another NPC over here does for you, and yada yada. It's not as intricate, like I said, as Majora's, but it's fun. Like, I love Gold, Silver, and Crystal. I will never not sing the praises of those specific games. And yeah, like, God forbid they ever give it a 3D remake, because they'll probably just give it the awful Sword and Shield treatment that they've been giving all their current titles, where again, it's not even sprites, it's 3D models just gliding around the screen and going, woo, look at me. Let's see. Timon, yeah, Timon and Andrew are getting into debates over Vesperia. See, I wish I could join in the debate, but I don't know enough about the Tale series. I gotta get into it. Oh, I guess my other experience with the Tale series is in the Project X Zone games, because they have some of those characters there, but that's about as far as it goes. Shinkai says, I love Durara and was weird season 2 split in 3 ways with Shoten Ketsu. There are weird media breaks in animes, in Japanese media. I mean, in all media, right? There are just breaks. Don't really, like, I don't know what the hell was up with that weird Durara one. You start seeing that a lot more nowadays, especially in, like, the West, where they'll go, like, take, for example, Invincible, where they go, Invincible works, but a better one would be Masters of the Universe, Revolution, right? Because they release it in 2 parts, so they go, here's Masters of the Universe Revelation, Part 1. And they go, here's Masters of the Universe Revelation, Part 2. But then, those just constitute Season 1. And then you go, here's Masters of the Universe Revolution, Part 1. That's Season 2, Part 1. And then it's like, well, what the hell are we even doing here? Like, I don't know. I kind of miss numbered sequels, because it's just like, that's, okay, cool. I know what do I watch? Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3. Let's go. If you want to throw, like, a subtitle into it, like, what is it? Resident Evil 7 Village. Or I guess that's not even technically its name. I guess it's just Resident Evil Village. But here, let me look over to my games real quick. Is there anything I can sort of see that really piques what I'm saying? Oh, no, that doesn't really work. Whatever, right? But, like, for example, it could have been like Captain America 3, Civil War. Things like that make it easier to follow, rather than like, oh, does Civil War come before Winter Soldier? Does Winter Soldier come before Brave New World? Does Brave blah, 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 right? Like, Shinkai says, oh, I understand the appeal of day and night cycle and other things that make a game interesting. Don't need some intricate system to add interesting depth, mainly just like memes. Oh yeah, no, I knew you were joking, and I was laughing at the joke of it, but then I spun it out into another conversation, you know? And then, man, the Gold Silver Crystal, maybe it's just because I was a kid at the time, but it really felt like, oh, we're going into like a whole new world. There's all these new Pokemon that felt like Pokemon, and you know, not floating key rings or floating ice cream cones or any of that sort of crap. Yeah, Timon, Resident Evil 20, Siberian Sanatorium. At this point, if you can make the 2 and the 0 work in Sanatorium, you have a title, my friend. I will send your contact information to Capcom. Ravul says, Japan is rejecting Square Enix. Japan sales chart, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PS5 sales slipped 91% at retail. Oh, wait. Is that what it is, Andrew? Are you right? Because Andrew says RE8 was the village. Is that right? Oh, yeah, I think, and then RE7 is just RE7 hunt. That is. I think you're right. Yeah. I definitely. I messed that one up. That's on me. I'll take that L. But yeah. So to Ravul's point, that's something. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Japan is rejecting Square Enix. Japan sales charts. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PS5 sales slipped 91% at retail. So that is a headline. That is what everybody has sort of been talking about. That's the news that's been spreading around. There's, unfortunately, like with a lot of topics, there is some nuance that we have to talk about before we can actually talk about the thing. Let's see. Ravul adds, now its second week numbers are in and the results are still pretty underwhelming. The game slipped 91% week over week, registering just 24,867 units at retail. So I'm not going to say that that's great. Like, that is a really bad result. But like I said, there's some nuance there that we have to discuss to have a full picture of what's going on. So one of the big things to remember is that this is only physical sales, right? This does not count digital at all. And it's also only in Japan. So we're only going to be talking about Japan at this point. Nothing about America, nothing, blah, 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 blah. So physical sales are very bad. Now, that's not counting digital sales, which we will probably see a bigger boom there. To that end, we have to remember what the ecosystem with consoles look like right now. Because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a PS5 game, and PS5 stock, PS5 adoption, because of the early stock shortages, is still very low across the globe, even in Japan. Like, it's the number one out there, but a lot of Japanese players are sticking to the Switch, and they're also sticking to PC, because there's a massive shift going on over there, because so many more games are being released cross-platform, right? So to that end, PS5 doesn't have a large install base. And we also have to remember that a lot of those consoles are digital only. You know, there's the discless option, and a lot of people, when you're using consoles, tend to lean towards digital media. So yes, that is a really, really stark physical number, but I am not ready to say, oh, they're rejecting ESG, they're rejecting any of this stuff, because one, I haven't really heard a lot of ESG stuff coming out of Rebirth. Yes, we had the Tifa discussion and the with her costume at Nibelheim and the panty scene being removed, but aside from those two things, those two pieces of censorship, there's nothing in I have not personally heard anything about Rebirth that I would go, oh, yep, ESG has their their claws in it. And again, maybe there is something in there. I haven't gotten the chance to personally play it because I don't have a PS5, but I'm not ready to sing off the death praises of something when I don't have all the information. And especially in an era where digital is so important and so big, unfortunately, like, I wish it wasn't that way. I wish more people were going to retail, but we have to get the full picture before we can say they're rejecting it. Now, there is a point to be made there where a lot of the ESG investment funds are leaving Japan. Their investments aren't being received as well, so they're pulling out, and they're going to, probably come back and focus on the West and Europe and in America. But right now, with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's far too early to determine whether that game is a hit or a fail. Because again, even if, let's play devil's advocate here for a second. Even if we ended, so you all know that the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth only has an exclusivity period for PS5 until May like 25th. It's not that long. It's like 3 months. There are no confirmed plans for where else it's going to go, but given that the last couple, Intergrade, Crisis Core, Remake, all those ended up on PC, it's probably going to be a PC release. So I'm interested to see what happens then. What are those, so even if the PS5 release just shit the bed, it could explode when it hits PC. So to me, we're going to have to see. This is a little too early to declare a victory in this fight, but it does, ESG is leaving. So there's that. But yeah, I'm not ready to just completely say Final Fantasy VII is done. Yeah, May 26th or 29th. It's something around there. Timon says, I can't wait for Ayuden Chronicles. Yeah, right? And then I'm rejecting Final Fantasy because Final Fantasy is not Final Fantasy anymore. That's a different conversation. And I think that's something we can, as fans, I think that is what am I trying to say here? It is true, right? Like, we've seen that shift in recent years, especially with 15, of moving the series away from turn-based combat to more action stylings. So, and you know, I say this as somebody who, I am a character action game person. That is my genre. You know, your Devil May Cry's, your Kingdom Hearts, your Zeldas, all those, like, give them to me. I will play those forever. I want to see my character in third person doing crazy, like, bing, bing, wahoo, bonkers shit. I want to, like, be in control of the hits and feel them. You know what I mean? And while I love that, that's not Final Fantasy. When I pick up a Final Fantasy, I do want a turn-based system where I have to think and strategize for a second and go, okay, this is my turn. I got to hit them, then I got to cast that. Like, that's what I want when I play a Final Fantasy. That's not to say you can't evolve that system. I think 12 evolved it. It wasn't, you know, the best evolution. I'm not going to say go out here. I don't even remember what that battle system was called anymore. But, it wasn't the best, most revolutionary thing ever, but they did something different while trying to keep its roots. And it sort of worked in that regard. Give it some polish. We could have probably had something a lot better. But, so I definitely understand why a lot of people are saying, you know, I don't want Final Fantasy like this. I'm out. And yeah, like, Remake is definitely not going to pull back any of those players because it is a full-blown character action game. Andrew says, I don't mind action Final Fantasy. The franchise has never been shy about making drastic changes from one entry to the next. See, okay, but then you kind of just shoot yourself in the foot in the next round where there are other JRPGs that I expect to remain turn-based, like DQ and Shin Megami Tensei. Well, those games have also gone out of and done different play styles. You know, they've had fighting games, they've had building games, they've had straight up action games, they've had Pokemon style monster collecting games, they've had card games. So to me, that, yes, you might not care, but that's one of those personal things where you might not care, but it objectively goes against the spirit of what the Final Fantasy series was. Now, that's not to say its tone or its stories or anything. Well, Final Fantasy 16 is just garbage. We're not even going to talk about that story. Game of Thrones is awful. Stop copying it. But, you know, Remake and 13, 3 and 14 and all the stuff we've been getting, they've been, you know, pretty consistent in Final Fantasy in tone, in story, in characters, all that stuff. But it's the gameplay. It's just, you know, if you don't like, you know, if we go to a restaurant and you get, and it's like, okay, we're going to get burgers. Like, this place is a burger place. Like, let's try it out. And we get there and they go, okay, we're not doing burgers this week. We're doing chicken sandwiches. Very similar to a burger, but it's, you know, it's a slightly different meat. If you sat down and you went, okay, I'm okay with this, that's fine. Like, okay, you can be okay with it. But objectively, most of the people who go there expecting a burger are going to be upset that, oh, you're not giving me the burger that that I expected when I came here. And it's not like this was like we're adding this to the menu, right? Like, if core Final Fantasy had stayed the same, 15, 16, and it was turn-based, and then you had Remake, which was action, then you could go like, yeah, we have our burgers, but then here's the chicken sandwich that we're also offering over here if you would like it. It's an additional thing. It's not replacing the burger. It's another offering if you would like to choose that. But the problem is they went, no, you don't get that burger anymore. We're doing chicken sandwiches, and you either like it or you don't. And I don't blame people for going, no, I didn't want this. Like, it's nobody's saying it's bad, but it's not what you want when you're going to that specific restaurant, right? So that's sort of what you have to, like, a lot of, not you specifically, Andrew, but the royal you, like, people need to remember that when you're going into these properties or these specific things, you have to either be very ready to know that you are changing everything, and you can't go, you can't really defend it. You have to accept it and go, yep, we made this change. We're trying it out. If you don't like it, we're sorry. If you like it, let's talk about it. Like, there's that, but you also can't, you can't go into something, change it, and go, what's the big deal? Why are you so upset that this is because again, a lot of that sentiment that you're sort of offering in this argument, Andrew, is a lot of what we get from Hollywood creators when they get their hands on the properties or stories we like. They take it and they change something radically, and they go, what? It's still Captain America. There's still the Shield. You still have all of that. Comic book movies have always done something different. Like, what are you complaining about? And you can go, yeah, that's an argument you could make. But when you're advertising this to me as like an MCU movie, I don't want to come in and sit down for like a drama, like an Eternal style drama. That's not what I want. So it's not that you can't do different things. It's that you have to understand your audience. You have to understand what you're working with, and also understand that if people reject it, you cannot sit there and go, what's your problem? Why are you upset about this? We do changes all the time, because they're valid in their complaints. If they go, hey, Final Fantasy 1 through 12, 13, and all those sequels were turn-based, and now you did action and tactical spin-offs, but now those are just the main games. I don't blame people for being upset. Just sort of like if we look at like Marvel Comics, right? Oh, you guys, if they were doing romance comics and they were doing, preachy comics, nobody would mind if those were, side offerings to the main lines that were still telling these incredible bombastic stories of adventure. But in recent years, that's not what happens anymore. Now they've taken those niche titles or whatever that, worked as a side offering, and that's the main offering. And I don't put that on fans for saying, I didn't want that main offering. I wanted what I had, what you said you were going to give me. If this is what you want, fine, but you can't expect me to stick around and be okay with it. Let's see. Incorrect. No, that's what I'm saying, Andrew. Incorrect. Those are spin-offs, and that's the point. If you want to go experiment in spin-offs, go experiment in spin-offs. But when you have a mainline entry to radically change it and throw it out the window, or throw out the identity of whatever you're working with out the window, then you're no longer really working within that identity. You're not working within that sort of framework, right? Here's a really good example where Zero brought up, if I want an action RPG, the Mana series is right there. Now, let's put the shoe on the other foot and say, if a Mana fan who likes that action series goes and all of a sudden, whatever, Tale, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with like a fake name. The, Tales of Mana 4 or whatever, that comes out and it's a complete turn-based RPG. And then the next 4 entries are turn-based RPGs. I wouldn't be happy with that either, because that's not what Mana is. If you wanted to make a separate, like, Legend of Mana, oh my gosh, what are those little dudes called? They're not Rabbids, they're... Damn, I forget their names. But if you wanted to, like, make a spin-off game about that, and that's a slow turn-based action or a turn-based RPG, cool. Have at it. Nothing wrong with offering more options. But when you take those options away, or when you make those options the only thing, then it gets weird. That's where it is. I didn't say because here's the problem. You didn't say they should suck it up, but here's what you did say, Andrew. You said, I don't mind action. The franchise has never been shy about making drastic changes from one entry to the next. There are other JRPGs that I expect to remain turn-based, like Dragon Quest and Shin Megami Tensei. From that statement, I gathered, I don't really care if it changes. It should, because it has a history of doing it. And that's the argument I was addressing. If I came off and said, you said all Final Fantasy fans should suck it up, I apologize. That's the read I got off of that statement. Because I just don't really ever agree with the sentiment of it is super okay to change the core identity of this thing and make that the main thing. For example, there was a DC comic a couple years ago or DC did this thing a couple years ago where they took a lot of the Hanna-Barbera properties and they put them into, I don't want to say modernized, but they sort of like revamped them, I guess is like the best way to do it, right? So like the Scooby-Doo gang became like a bunch of kids trying to survive like a zombie monster outbreak. And then the Flintstones became this story about Fred being like a war veteran and having to deal with getting back to life after war. And there was a Snagglepuss comic that was used as an analogy for like when like homosexuality used to be illegal and artists like Oscar Wilde and stuff used to be like persecuted just for existing. Those were all actually pretty good. And I really enjoyed those series. But I would hate if, the next day DC said, okay, that version of Snagglepuss, that version of Scooby-Doo, that's them now. That is them. You got to deal with it. And if somebody came up to me and said, well, things change all the time, what are you upset about? I would go, okay, but they change in spinoffs. They experiment over here, and the core thing still remains. There's nothing wrong with doing spinoffs. It's just there's a reason people like thing A, and if you try to make it thing C, then I don't think anybody should really hold the right to be. And this applies to developers, not you. But like, I don't think anybody should hold the right to be like, what the hell? Why didn't you like that? You know what I mean? Let's see. Okay, Andrew, like, I know it's your position, but I'm also just arguing. I'm also speaking in the general, dude. Like, but I mean, to your point, that's also sort of like that's just it. You brought up a point, and I'm pushing back against it, and I'm saying, and I'm offering my thoughts on it. It's all right, dude. Like I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry if I set you off. I did not mean to do that. Where was it? Yeah, Zero says Type Zero is technically a spin-off, which Square treats as a mainline game somehow. Well, no. Okay, now that's sort of getting off track of what I'm trying to say. Where when I say a mainline game, I mean like a Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where if you play that, for the most part, you get the entire like story of whatever's going on, right? Like that to me is a specific like main entry. Type Zero is like a side entry, and that's why they can do the action game. Like, yeah, it's still canon, but it's not saying like this is Final Fantasy now. It knows it's a side game. It's just like Dirge of Cerberus, right? Or what is the other one? Oh, I feel like there's another one that I'm totally blanking on that was like action-y or like not. I don't know. But yeah, like Dirge of Cerberus. So you can have side games that are like canon, but it's about like, that is what that sort of spin-off, that's what that side thing is. Story can be canon, that's fine, but it's the gameplay mechanics and stuff like that. Timon says Square Enix should have copied the SMT games and called the different games a spin-off series. I don't know about that, because it wasn't really until 10 that they really started doing like, oh, we're going to continue things, right? With like 10.2 or 13 and 13.2 and 13.3 and that sort of stuff. So I liked the idea of Final Fantasy being an anthology where each story is sort of a new one each time you go through it. But now with honestly, I will say this, and this is me coming from a fan of FF7 and all of its lore and all that sort of stuff, where the point where Final Fantasy's narrative started to go unhinged was when the Final Fantasy X Ultimania came out, right? And in the 10 Ultimania, there's a little detail that basically says, like, the world of Final Fantasy X happens a couple thousand years on a different planet from Final Fantasy VII, but they're all related. Like, I think like one of the Al Bhed flies over to whatever planet Final Fantasy X is on, yada yada. It's not instrumental to the game. It's a little bit of trivia. But the second they did that and they started to try to make everything into this Final Fantasy franchise, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like at that point they started relying more on like their pool of characters and like Theatrhythms and the record keeper and just like all that sort of stuff. Yeah, Andrew, like it was a really dumb retcon. It was one of those ones that felt like you were reaching really hard to make it connect because like, oh, I like Final Fantasy VII, but then once it worked, it was just, or not once it worked, once you implemented it, it was like, this doesn't make any sense within the context of what the hell we're doing. Like, I genuinely don't know what we're getting here. And, but yeah, like that was the point where it's very similar to the MCU, right? Where in the beginning, you had all these individual stories about individual characters. Iron Man was, yes, they shared the same world, which is different from Final Fantasy, but for the most part, their adventures were separate. You had Iron Man doing his thing, Cap doing his thing, Thor doing his thing, the Guardians doing their thing. Then once we got to Avengers, the movie, and that became a hit, the Marvel marketing team or whatever just started amping. Everybody's an Avenger. Everybody's on the Avengers team. Oh, remember, we're going to market all these movies on you seeing all these other characters because you recognize them. And it became more about, do you remember, do you know this, rather than, oh, we're a living organic world where something might pop up every once in a while. And that's where, once that connection was made in 10, I think everything just sort of went wonky after that. And then once we got into this era of like merchandising and gacha, it just became more about like marketing your main character, I guess, and how you can throw him into another game and have people recognize him or buy his skin or whatever and bring it back. So like, yeah, that to me was like the moment the Final Fantasy identity started getting weird. Cause like it was right then, and then we got like 10-2, and then we got 11, and then we got 12, and then we got 13, 3, 2, 1, and then we got, I know I did that backwards, and then we got 14. We're like, I'm not against the MMO experimentations. Like, honestly, I know that sounds a little counter to what I was sort of saying, but I think they did one entry, and I'm not a big MMO fan, right? But like, it was one entry, and they said, or two technically, but they're like, we're going to do these, we're going to maintain these, and then, you know, we're going to let the rest of the series go on, which is like, okay, you could have, I don't know if you needed a mainline title for it, but it's fine. Like, the other series still existed. Now, yeah, the other series was going action-y, but it was still there. Andrew said, okay, there's a lot I want to hit, so I'm going to hit these out of order, but there are so many things I want to hit from you guys. So first, Andrew says, Titus should just cease to exist in general. He's a crap protag. Vaughn just exists. He's useless. Titus is more annoying. I genuinely agree with that. I've never really liked Titus as a protagonist. I like elements of him. And to be fair, that's not even plural. I like one thing about him, and then I like one scene with him. And what I like is that his sword, I forget what it's called, like that blue one, I think it looks really cool. Like, you guys know me, I'm a sucker for like translucent, see-through, sort of, you know, colorful things. And so like that sword, I've got a couple action figures of Titus like sitting around, and all of the swords are see-through, and they're really cool. So I really like that. And then I really like that scene where Yuna's about to get married is it Sin? I forget who, I think that's who it is. But she's about to get married, and all the team like grinds down the like cables to the ceremony. Titus there does a lot of like Sonic Adventure 2 style flips, and he's like grinding, and he like backflips, and he does all, and it's like, that's really cool. You're a loser, but that was really cool. I will give you that. Oh yeah, Seymour. That's who it was. Not Sin. It's been so long since I've played 10. But yeah, like, I am not a big fan of Titus. He's just there. I guess his like costume design maybe is kind of cool. Actually, maybe I take that back. Maybe I just like the yellow on his jacket. Yeah, the bevel rate. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, like I said, long time since I played it. Vaughn is the worst. But let me rephrase that. I see that Timon says Vaughn is the worst, but I do have to agree with Andrew and say he just exists, right? Like, he is the most useless protagonist because he's really just there. Even when there are moments where it's like, oh, this is Vaughn's time to shine, he gets stepped up by what's his name, Balthazar and Fran and literally everybody else on the team. So yeah, Vaughn just does not exist. And again, I'm going to bring this up because I have to bring it up ever since I learned it like 2 months ago. But the voice actor for Vaughn, and I'm sure Andrew and Zero are tired of hearing me say this because I tell it to them all the time. But the voice actor for Vaughn is the kid from the Alien Ant Farm Smooth Criminal video who's like doing all the dancing, like the pop and locking. Like, that's Vaughn's voice actor, and I just cannot fathom or wrap my mind around it. Like, it's the weirdest thing. And then, okay, yeah, now we're gonna go back. Yeah, Zero says Tactics is over a millennia in 12's future, but Tactics is also weird because it's like an imaginary play date that, like, I kind of keep Tactics over here, you know, Final Fantasy's over here, Tactics is over here, because the second I try to start making sense of how all of that, the world of what is that called? Like I'm again, it's been a while, but as soon as I try to make all of that make sense with tactics and like not really existing and what happens when Marsh wakes up, then everything goes out the window. And yes, Zero, I know it's Tidus. I refuse. I hate when people call him Tidus. Like, it's so stupid. And then, yeah, Tidus' story on Mobius Final Fantasy is canon to 10 and 10-2. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, it's just, we've gotten way too out of pocket at this point. And, like, again, as a Final Fantasy VII person, I enjoy the fact that they've started expanding the lore and we get more time with these characters. But, guys, like, to get the full story for Final Fantasy VII at this point, you have to play, and I'm probably not even going to hit all of them, but just for, like, an example, you got to play the PlayStation original. You've got to play both of the, you know, remake, rebirth. You've got to watch Advent Children. You've got to read like 3 light novels. You've got to play 2 spin-off games. You have to play a mobile game. And then I also think there's there's information in the Ultimanias that you have to read to get the full context for things, right? So like it's a little come on, guys, let's rein this in just a little bit. Let's streamline it just a little bit. You know, keep it in video games or whatever. Just make it easy for us to follow. On the topic, I did want to note, because, well, first off, this is really off or like heartbreaking, but Dante, first of all, awesome. He got a picture with Clive Barker. Barker's the man. He's a legend, but damn, Clive Barker isn't looking good. Like, he's not long for this world. That's what I was saying at the top of the show, right, guys? Like, we're going to start seeing this a lot more from a lot more of our icons. And that's like right now we're going to start seeing it. As we go on, like 10, 20, 30 years, it's only going to get worse. That's when we're going to start losing people. You know, I'm going to go to comic books for a specific, like, just for this rant, but it's like, you know, we've lost people like George Perez and obviously like Stan Lee and all them. But as we keep going, we're going to start losing you know, the people we think about all the time. Someday Liefeld's going to be gone. Someday Grant Morrison's gone. Mark Waid, even though he's a jackass, incredible comic book writer, he'll be gone. Jeff Johns, like, it's going to be really, really weird once we start getting up there, right? So, like, it's heartbreaking. All I can really do is be like, my heart goes out to Clive, and I hope he's longer for this world. I feel like he's been doing a lot of writing production, like helping out on comic books of his work and adaptations. I feel like that's what he's been doing. So yeah, just best of health to him. That's always just straight up heartbreaking. But and next topic, Final Fantasy X-2. Timon says Final Fantasy X-2 is like Barbie's Final Fantasy. Now, I have to admit to you guys, I don't like the game per se, but I absolutely love the dress sphere system, right? So not only do I like it from a gameplay perspective, where it allows you to sort of switch up your moves at a moment's notice, and it brings just another level of tactics to your fight, because, oh, maybe an attack will work in this mode, but then they switch forms or something, so we gotta blah, blah, blah. It's fun. The combat is fun. But I am a giant sucker for alternate costumes. So the fact that the game revolves around, like, each girl having 60 different costumes, because it's all the different jobs, it's the best thing ever, just to see him like change. It's like Super Sentai, right? Like I know Timon's got me. You're like Kamen Rider. You have Yuna in like her regular gunslinger outfit, raises the sphere, flash of light. All of a sudden she's got like Dragoon armor on, and she's holding like a staff, and it's like, that's badass. Like, that was really cool. I wish they would bring that back a lot. I highly doubt they ever will. But those are the 2 things I have to shout out 10-2 for. Literally the only 2 things I have to shout out 10-2 for. That game, it's fine, I guess. Like, it's passable, but the story gets like super wonky with all of the like, oh, is that Titus? No, it's a dream, but it's also not a dream, but also it is a dream, and that's a separate nightmare. And it's like, oh my god, like, I don't know who wrote that one. I think it might have been Nomura. I don't even know, but rein it in just a little bit. But yeah, so okay, Evilise, thank you, Zero. I knew it was right there on the top of my head. Ravul says Final Fantasy VI greater than 7. I hate that comparison, because it's one that I struggle with all the time, and I think I have to agree with you, Ravul. Like, just sick. As much as I love 7 to fucking death, and it's got some of my favorite, like every one of the party members is like one of my favorite characters in pop culture and entertainment and media. I love Final Fantasy VII. You guys know this, but 6 is just the superior game. Like, from the story to the gameplay to the characters. Like when you think Shadow's gone, what the fuck? Or like when, what's his name? Pyle drives the train, or just everything with Kefka, right? Like 6 is a genuine, I would say 7's a masterpiece too, but like 6 is just one of those like it's one of those cases where it's like, I recognize that as the best one. It's not necessarily my favorite, but it's like, I have to agree that it is a better game. Yeah, I'm a weeb, but at least Timon will know exactly what I'm talking about. And then, yeah, Andrew says Final Fantasy X-2 dress system was the precursor to my favorite Final Fantasy battle system, the paradigm system. Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that, but that is what it is. It, again, just give them more costume changes. I think paradigm, you can change your weapons, right? Is that what it is? I need to get back to Final Fantasy. Zero! Chop, chop, get back to playing Final Fantasy so I can remember what we're talking about. And then, yeah, like I'm glad to see that everybody's sort of agreeing with that sentiment, Ravul. We got Zero. We got Andrew saying 6, you know, it's better. It has the better villain. And, yeah, like, Andrew hits it right. Kefka is the best villain. 7's characters stick more. I think 7's characters as an ensemble stick more. But I think that when you got, like, Terra, and then you got, like, Kefka, and at least to me, like Locke and Shadow, I think they all stick out a lot. Everybody else, I will admit, does sort of fade into the background. But I think you have to at least give it to like that. Those, what did I say? Like 4 or 5, right? Oh, Timon says 6 is the best Final Fantasy. My top 3 is 9, 8, and 6. Those are all really good. I think if I had to do top 3 and we're only doing main lines, 7, 6, 9, I think would probably be mine. 7, 6, 9. I like 8. It's just, it was never one of the ones that stuck out to me, right? You know, like it never just gripped me the right way. Not that it's a bad game. I'm not saying that. It's just a personal taste preference, right? Like I actually like a lot of the characters and the setting and the story. It just, something about 8 never gripped me the same way that like 7 and 9 did. I beat it. I played it. It just, I could barely tell you anything. I remember, my wife who's Selfie, because she shows back up in Kingdom Hearts. And I remember the opening battle between Squall and Cypher. And then I remember, God, oh my God, I forget the name, but the card game system there, like, spent way too much fucking time on that guy. Like, don't put a card game system in your media or I'm going to lose my life to it. Like, there's just no way around it. This is where we are at this point. Zero says, I have some FF games on my backlog, notably the remakes of 3 and 4 and Type 0. I've also yet to play the 10 remasters. I actually don't know how much they remastered in the 10 remasters. I haven't played those. Like, I only played the originals. I feel like they only did, like, just a bunch of graphic stuff, right? Like, it wasn't that big of a change. And then, obviously, ported it to run natively on whatever system it's on. 3 and 4, good. So you brought up the remake, Zero, and I gotta, let's see. I gotta show you this stuff because I think I've shown Zero and Andrew this, but yeah. Okay, this will work close enough. Sorry, I'm trying to find the visual aid for this point, and it's just going to. Okay. That's probably good enough. Well, you'll have to bear with me. So let's switch over to our web window. Yes, and by the way, guys, as you can see, our stream buddy tonight for our X-Men discussion later, Cyclops, my man, my favorite X-Man, when he became Phoenix during Secret Wars, such a fucking cool moment. I'm gonna go on a quick Secret Wars tangent. It's just that I was so happy when so in Secret Wars, right, when all the universes are collapsing, Mr. Fantastic and Black Panther are like, we got to make a pod, like a life ship, and save the most important heroes to fight against Doom. And so you got Mr. Fantastic, and you got Black Panther, and you got Carol Danvers. But I was so excited because they literally pulled in my top 3 favorite Marvel heroes into that ship, and it was Spidey, obviously, Cyclops, and Star-Lord. I liked that at the time. I liked that Star-Lord. That was before they went way overboard and just made him too goofy. So I was like, oh, like that's hell yeah! Oh, I don't care about this event anymore. All of my guys made it. Fuck, like sorry to everybody else. I'm out of here. Sorry, Hulk fans. Sorry, Hawkeye fans. But yep, let's go web slinging. And then they gave Scott the Phoenix, and like they gave Scott the Phoenix, and he was already in his like super badass red costume with the red X, and I don't know, just all of that was so cool. It won't happen in the movies. Don't ever hold your breath. But it's one of those moments that goes down with me as like, it appeals to that like inner 14-year-old, you know? I'm just like, yeah, it's so fucking cool. Yeah, yes, 0-0. That is Phoenix Force Cyclops, but it's not. So he gets it twice, right? He gets it during Avengers versus X-Men when there was the Phoenix 5, and like Emma, Colossus, Magic, and Namor also get it. And that's a pretty cool costume. I do like that one with the red, crest isn't the right. It's like chest shield, whatever, like the Green Ranger has. And then he gets it in Secret Wars because on that life raft, he like smuggles in a Phoenix egg, and he like hatches when they're out, and then yeah, he like takes the power into himself. It really, really cool. AVX was a game changer for the X-Men at the time. I was actually really into that era of X-Men where with the Hope stuff, because again, playing the cards that we had dealt, I thought the idea of Hope being like the one to restart mutations was a really interesting idea. I'm sort of at that point in my comic book reading career where I'm really done with super team versus super team events, because we all sort of know how they go down, right? Like it's so much so that it's become a joke. You see it in like the CW or in like cartoons. It's like, all right, what do? Do we smack each other around a little bit before we, team up and we get over this? Like, just done with it. And then Avengers versus X-Men has happened like 900 times before. There are good pieces in that story that I like a lot. There's there's Spider-Man and Shang-Chi teaching Hope how to, focus herself and like her emotions through Kung Fu, and then through like meditation for Spidey. Lots of cool things there. Just overall one of those stories that's just like, all right, yeah, like you let your 7-year-old write a story. Yeah, Andrew says to blazes with that card game. No, like I'm admitting, like it's not the main draw of the game, and it's not even that particularly good of a card game system. But oh my god, did I spend too much? Like it does not. You guys got so lucky that weekend that what was that 2-3 weeks ago when when Toriyama passed, and I was going to show you guys the card game that the servers were down, because we would have still been playing. We would have still been here playing that game. And oh yeah, I should let you guys know that was an official server crash, because I logged in the next day and they gave us like bonus currency, like, hey, sorry, no idea what that crash was about. It took the servers out for about 36 hours. We're really, really sorry. So wasn't on me, baby. We got through that one. And Timon says 7 became that song that plays too much on the radio. I'm fed up with 7. I completely understand that sentiment. Do not get me wrong, Timon. Like, I hear that, because I don't know about you guys, but this is sort of how I cycle with radio songs. It's like when I hear it on the radio and it's a single and it's everywhere, it's not that I think it's a bad song. I'm just like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I'm done with it. Like, shut the hell up. Like, if I have to hear We Are Young Again by Fun, I'm going to commit an act. Like that. Like, I understand that sentiment. And then I'll admit, I will let years pass, and then I will go back to a song, 4 years after the height of its popularity, and I'll play it, and I'll go, this is a fucking good song. I get why it was popular. It is a good song, and I want to listen to it now because it's on my terms. So you are right. Like, 7 has been really, really, really just thrown out there, astroturfed. It's the one everybody knows. It's the one they're going to market. I guarantee you, when we get to the eventual Magic the Gathering sets with the Final Fantasy characters, they're all going to have, pardon me, it's going to be a lot of 7 heavy cards. Like, you're going to have your Sephiroths, your Tifas, your Clouds, your Aeriths, maybe a Reno, maybe a Barrett, but like those other ones, I guarantee are going to be commanders or legendary creatures, whatever you want to classify them as. Hell yeah, Jacob, we got to get in contact. Jacob says, I only listen to Limp Bizkit. We have to get in contact with Fred, and we have to go out on the campaign trail with him. Like, we need that absolutely right now. And yeah, exactly, Zero. Bullshit. Walks away with Limp Bizkit blaring on the phone. I liked Strangers of Paradise. It's not the best game, but it was fun. I think Strangers of Paradise really exemplified to me that I'm not against the Soul systems. I'm just against, like, the Soul and Elden Ring settings. Like, I don't care about medieval fantasy, but you throw in like a thing I know, like a Final Fantasy, or you throw in a what was the other one I want, like Neo, where you went more anime than like realistic fantasy. Like then I'm in. Like then those games are fantastic. Let's see. Where there was one thing I wanted to address up here. Yeah, hopefully we get the Dragoon series remastered. I just want it remastered. Just again, graphical upgrades, quality of life upgrades, throw it out to me for $30. I don't want you adding shit. I don't want you making like new modes necessarily. Like just like I don't want extra story. I don't want extra campaign. Just throw me the game that I know, $30 with, you know, make it so that the camera's not the worst thing in the world. Zero says Strangers of Paradise tried so hard and ended up completely forgotten. I think the reason it ended up completely forgotten is because, one, they didn't really support it. There wasn't a lot of DLC coming out like you get with the other Souls-like games. And right after it came out, that's when they started the ramp up to Final Fantasy 16. So everything went to 16. And then after 16, everything went to Rebirth. So that game really just got poor timing, I guess, right? Like just wrong place, wrong time. But I will say, I do enjoy the fact that Square does recognize it exists. Like they always, their social media account, one of my favorite gags is they'll tweet like a class, right? Like warriors are the strongest ones throughout all of Final Fantasy. Who's your favorite warrior in a Final Fantasy game? Or like, would your party ever be able to get by without a white mage? White mages are the healers of this franchise. Who's your favorite white healer or white mage? And it's always like 4 pictures, right? So like for a warrior, it'll have Warrior of Light, it'll have like Locke, Cloud, and then it'll have Jack from Strangers of Paradise. Then on the mage one, it'll have like the mage right here, the one from Final Fantasy like 1. It'll have I don't even remember any of the other white mages, but then yeah, like one of them will be Jack at the end of it. So he still exists. I'm glad he does. It's not a bad game. It's not if you're a big Souls fan, it's probably on the weaker end. It doesn't have as much robust options and smoothness as the other games. But, you know, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, a Souls fan, it's fun. Like, it's worth at least, like, a playthrough at the very, very least. Like, at the very least, like, one playthrough. Let's see. Yeah, Shinkai, hating the overhyped and getting into it when things cool down. I can relate to it. Was me with Attack on Titan. Maybe only one that can say this. You are not the only one who can say that. Like, I know 2 other people who didn't get into Attack on Titan until it started winding, or like the manga had ended, and then the anime was winding down, and they were doing that weird, like, Attack on Titan final season, part 1, part 3, part 9, final part. Like, that whole stupid bullshit. They used that as the opportunity to be like, okay, I'm just going to get into it now. It's popular, sure, but it's not everywhere. Let's go. But yeah, no, I don't blame Timon. I don't blame anybody who goes, this shit's too popular. I don't want to deal with it right now, because it's just, it's too much. It's overbearing, and I totally get it. Flex is here. What's up, Flex? The best Final Fantasy is the one that requires you to change a dozen discs and fill no less than 3 memory cards with save files. I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I miss switching discs. Like, I know there's no reason for it. Like, we have long evolved past it, but there's just that sensation of like, I'm done with this part. Like, here we go. Like ramp me up. It almost feels like a new game, right? Like, here we go. Like, I genuinely miss it. I also miss, if you guys remember the Monster Rancher series, that Cider, Jacob, and Nerdigans brought this up yesterday on Bounding's Tokyo Happy Hour live stream, but that series was a sort of a monster collecting thing that, you know, was super popular back in the Pokemon Digimon days. And its gimmick was, since it was a PlayStation game, the way you unlocked monsters was you went to a certain area and you talked to a guy, and then you would open your PlayStation and put in a CD, whether that's a movie, a music CD. I did them off of like AOL browser CDs, and you would put that in your PlayStation. It would scan it, give you a monster. Funnest thing in the entire world. Obviously, nowadays it would probably be ruined because all you could do is just grab a guide and go, oh, okay, Blink 182, Dude Ranch gives me a Phoenix. Cool. Like, all right, let me go grab that CD. But back in the day, just being like, what's in here? What's in here? Get me the damn disc. What? I gotta find this freaking monster. Like, I know it's here. I remember when I was a kid, my mom came home one day after work, and the living room was just splayed out with all of her shit, and she was so mad. And I had just forgotten to clean up because I was like going through all these CDs, and then it took me like 3 hours to put them all back to normal. Tehillim says 15 of Final Fantasy wasn't perfect, but I did enjoy playing through it. It was fine, right? Like I enjoyed my time with it. I'm so torn on it because I'm not opposed to the story and the characters, but I feel like they sort of got too ambitious for their own good with the trying to make it like a cross-media experience with movies and a manga and just all this stuff, that things got weird and out of place, and it just got hard to follow, and it just got sort of like you're expecting me to invest way more off the bat into these characters that I do not know yet than almost any other like piece of media I can remember in recent years. Flex says, I want to be able to have every character class in a single party. Maximum versatility. Okay, I agree with that sentiment, but I also think that the capability for that, like, you shouldn't be able to do that until you're like pretty, maybe halfway through the game. Like, I want the beginning to, present me that challenge, let me experiment and force to, fight and struggle. And then I want to, upgrade and become OP and go God mode and go, that's right, now we're going, like, switch to whatever, like, party you, or, like, whatever class you want. We're going to steamroll through every single one of them. Yeah, Shinkai, true. I hate deciding who to have in a party. Let me have all the homies. Like, there are those rare games that let you switch party members in battle. I believe, like, One Piece Odyssey is one such game. Rebirth lets you do that now. I think it's either in battle or on the map screen. You can switch it out in Rebirth now. But yeah, like, I like those systems because for me, a lot of times it's almost less about what the character can do, right? And more about, I just like I want to hang out with you. Like, I like that character. There's a reason my ending party in Final Fantasy VII always amounts to Vincent, Yuffie, Tifa. Like, not really a good combination at all. You've got 4,000 bruisers there, but you've got no healers, no magic. But that's the party I pick because I just like them. And that's sort of like, a good way to offset that is sort of that Final Fantasy system where Cloud or Squall or Zidane, you can make them into what you need them to be, right? So, like, in Final Fantasy VII, Cloud ends up being my magic caster because he can cast, I'll give him the all, so he casts Barrier and Reflect, and that gets everybody. And since everybody else doesn't really have magic, Yuffie, Tifa, and Vincent can just focus on kicking ass. And so, like, I think that's a good workaround maybe in, like, the early days. But yeah, I want, like, I love my homies. I want all my homies to be here. Pokemon's the worst at that. How am I only supposed to pick 6 of these little guys? Like, they're so adorable. Like, bring them all with me. Andrew says, I'd argue that 15 had some of the most organic and realistic character interactions within the party out of the entire franchise. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. The team dynamic between those guys, like, it felt real, it felt natural, and that was probably the most compelling thing to me. Like, yes, you want to advance the plot or whatever, but it was like, okay, yeah, can we go do that next thing so we can get back in the car and have, like, Prompto make fun of Noctis? Like, can we do that? Like, that's what I want to hear right now. Andrew asks, why not Aerith? 2 reasons. One, because as a kid, so again, this is, going in fresh as like a 10-year-old or whatever, I'm playing the game. You get to the point where it's like, make your party, and it's like Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, and then I think, who's the next one you get? I think it's Red, right? So then you actually have to start swapping people out. And it's like, Barrett's cool, like, he's got a gun arm. Red's a freaking, like, red dog. And then Tifa's just the hotter one than Aerith. Like that's really what it boils down to. And then there's the fact that at least in the original one, Aerith dies, so I have to accept that at some point she can't be my healer, like especially when I'm going hunting, like weapon hunting. So that's mostly what it is. When she's a lot, like I will admit in remake, because she's sort of your standard party member throughout all of it, because you don't really get Red as a playable character, I did start to like warm up and be like, okay, she actually has a lot to offer. Like she's so helpful as a healer in that game. But yeah, I still tend to have Cloud, even in remake, be my utilitarian. Yes, pro tip, says Flex, you can sweep FF1 with 4 monks. You can sweep most of those old games with just like stupid broken builds. But I remember the monks in particular it's because they just have like that like inherent natural strength. And then what is the other, like there's another stat that they have that I'm like completely blanking on because it's 1. Why are like that's forever ago. Timon says, if you want to play a great JRPG, I recommend Thousand Arms. It's like playing a weird, funny anime. It's my favorite game of all time. Play it on an emulator, the first game with voice acting. I've heard of that game, haven't played it. It's going on the list right now. Where is this? Where is this? I really hope this pen has ink. Well, it doesn't, but Thousand Arms. There, did that show up? I at least scribbled it in. So I'm definitely going to give that one my next attention when I need to play a video game. The OG Sword of Mana was a great video game. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Mana series has been pretty solidly consistent throughout all of its releases. Andrew says, oh, that dying part was the joke. Okay, but fine, you got me. I'm the big dum-dum on this one. I'll take it. It went right over my head. That group felt like a legit brotherhood. They almost felt out of place. What do I mean? Like their interactions felt so real and just so natural that they felt like they didn't belong in Final Fantasy. They almost felt like not a sitcom. That's like the wrong word, but just like a long running show where everybody knows each other and I don't know. It was fun. Like I would love to see more of them just come back in general. Yes, Shining Resonance Refrain is a fun RPG. Yes, absolutely, Revul. Cannot deny that. That's what it was, Flex. That's right. Yeah, Monk's Masters do max damage without equipment. That's what it was. I knew their damage stat was already like mad. I forgot that was the thing that gets like puts them over the top. Shinkai says, my favorite RPG that is Japanese, in fact, favorite game of all time is Steambot Chronicles. Music, story, characters, gameplay will kill for a sequel. I love that game. I can't believe it only got like a one and done. Like they keep putting it back on like PSN and stuff, so I always like keep seeing it on my feed, and I'm like, like it's nothing new. Like I definitely loved Steambot Chronicles. Let's see. If I have to pick my favorite JRPG, and I'm going to take 7 out of the running because we've already heard enough from Spencer about Final Fantasy VII. If I had to pick, man, this is so hard. No, it isn't. No, it's easy. Freaking Z. Dragon Quest III. Done. The one where with the son of the hero or the daughter of the hero, like that was one of those first games where you could like customize pretty much everything. Like your hero is really the only named character in Dragon Quest III. It's, and then you can pick their gender. So it's like, are you a boy or are you a girl? And then you go to get your party and you just recruit people at the tavern. So it's not like I have to go meet like Barrett over here and Selphie over here and Quistis over here. It's just like, oh shit, I need a healer. Yo, who's looking for a job? And that's just who it is from there on out. And you can change their classes, you can hire new people, you can fire them. It's so good. And there's just like a lot of secrets and exploring to do. Unfortunately, its remakes, I guess is what you would call them, have not been great. And that's sort of a good lead into why I brought this image up in the first place all those like 20 minutes ago. So on the topic of remakes, obviously we've had my good boy Flex. He's been talking about the Final Fantasy 1 remake. Zero was talking about how he needs to play the 3 and 4 remakes. So one of the biggest things I hate about them is their font choices. Now, this right here, or here, Yeah, so this right here is Final Fantasy 1, but it's obviously been upscaled. I believe this is a mod taken from Nexus that somebody used to restore the font. So you can see right here it's more up it's upscaled, it's higher resolution, but it is the SNES like blocky font. You can see how it works within the system, how it lines up aesthetically with all those sprites, right? Communicates that this was an old school game. We all get it. It works. We can read it. This is what happens when they've ported them all. They've replaced literally all of the fonts with what is that? Arial? Like they don't even like pixelate it, so it's just the Arial font, so it stands out like a sore thumb against the highly pixelated backgrounds everywhere else. And it just, I don't know why it bugs me so much, but just the aesthetic there, it ruins the immersion. It makes me it makes it feel cheap, right? Because with this font, like, yes, it's nothing out of the ordinary, but it's clearly custom. It was done to work within those limitations and work with the rest of the systems that are around here. This one is just make it readable. Like, literally, that's the only order you could have come up with here, because none of this, like, the Kraken is all smushed. There's no uniform font size. It's just make it Arial. And so when it comes to the pixel versions of these games, or yeah, I think Zero, you just called them the pixel remasters. Done. Like I absolutely can't, because you just look completely awful. Yeah, Zero says, I hate the pixel remaster versions. They basically just slapped a coat of paint on the original versions without any of the content the GBA versions added. But see, like, okay, you were right, but I also think you need to take your or like refine that complaint just like a step further, because it's, well, like we were saying earlier, right? A good remaster, give me those graphic upgrades, give me that fresh coat of paint, give me those, quality of life tweaks, but aside from that, leave it alone and hand it over to me. So if this was just, we're slapping a new coat of paint on there, fine. But yes, not only do they, take away all the GBA extra content, but this is not a fresh coat of paint. This is like, imagine if somebody came over to like paint your house and they said, yep, I'll do a complete repaint. We'll take your house from white to brick orange or brick red, whatever that color is. Like, perfect, we'll do that. And you go, cool. Let's, like, all right, I'll see you later. I'm gonna go to work. You should be done by the time I get home, yada yada. You go to work, you come home, house is brick red, but it was painted with spray paint. No primer, no base layer. The dude just took a spray paint can and went over every inch of white and went, perfect, got it done. Like, mission accomplished, right? New coat of paint, it's red. Technically you got the job done, but it doesn't look good and it doesn't stick with like the aesthetic of the house. And when people come over, they're going to notice like, your house is gorgeous. You've got all this amazing furniture. Your feng shui is incredible. The layout is like gorgeous, but what the fuck's up with that paint? Like, what are we even doing here? And to me, it's just that, because obviously you guys know me, right? Like I like the artistry of all this stuff. I love the art directions, the pixel art, just all the creativity that goes into video games and media and stuff. So to see any of that just bowled over because it's easy, I guess, like, there's really no other excuse for this. It's so disheartening. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of it, right, Timon? The pixel remaster looks like phone games. So when you give me that, I get this expectation, right? Like, I'm playing a mobile game and it doesn't put me in that right mood. It doesn't put my mind in that right headspace. To better illustrate like what I'm trying to say here, how many of you guys out there have played what's the right term for this? Because there's not a lot of them, but like a full release version of a mobile game. So the one I'm thinking of in my head is Mega Man X Dive, right? So in mobile games, technically, or typically, not technically, typically in mobile games, the way the gameplay loop works is you hit play, and I'll use the Mega Man one, for example. You hit play, you play one stage, and then it boots you back to like the stage select screen so that you could either go back to the menu or spend more items, or maybe you've run out of energy to play for that day and they kick you back to the screen and say you can either wait or buy more, and you go, I'll wait, and then tomorrow says your energy's back. Would you like to play? And you play like 2 or 3 levels, and same thing happens. When you get the full release of Mega Man X Dive, yes, you don't have to pay anymore. Like there's no cash like barriers, but they still keep that loop structure where I play one level, then it kicks me back to the select, then I have to just hit like, yes, play next level, 5 minutes of gameplay, back to the screen, hit next level. And it's like, yes, there's no barrier there and I can just keep playing, but something about that system, because it's meant to disincentivize you from wanting to just blitz through it on the mobile one, when you have it fully released, you just go, something's wrong here. Like I don't want to play it the same way I did the mobile one, or like a full blown game, right? Like I still haven't beaten X Dive because I just can't stand having to always go back to the menu and pick the next part of a level every 5 steps. So for example, guys, like in Mega Man games, right? You have a level and you have like the first part of the level, then you have like a scenery change, then you have like the mid boss, then you have the next part, which might have another scenery change, or it just might present you like a floating platform puzzle. Then you have the boss. So it's like 5 elements to a stage, right? In X Dive, all of those are broken up into individual things. So you complete the first section. Okay, go back. Now you can do the modified section. Okay, now you fight the mid boss. Okay, now you do that last part. Okay, now you fight the boss. And it's just like, you keep interrupting me. It doesn't help the flow. It's not like conducive to me wanting to play. And that's how I feel about seeing low effort takes like this. It shows me that you really are just shitting that out there. So why should I care to engage with your work when you're not even putting in the effort to make it look decent? Like, again, if this was a brand new game, right? Like, and final, like right here, we're looking at the screen, this with Thundara and Kraken from FF1, brand new game, and they used this font, it would be a bummer because you could do so much more, but it wouldn't be so detrimental because you don't have any sort of comparison to it. There's no base thing it was before. Here, we've had better. Every Final Fantasy game has a stylized font until you get to the Pixel remasters and they just go, it's Arial. It's like the first main one on like every word processor, right? Like, yeah, you have that alphabetical list of fonts, but then at the top, it's like the most common. Arial's at the top. Like, it's the font equivalent of when you hire Laura Bailey and Troy Baker for your video game. It's just clearly somebody went online, typed in the very basic question and hit enter and said, like, give it to me. Hey, Corey, how's it going, buddy? Nice. Like, awesome to see you. I was wondering if you were going to show up tonight. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Yeah, Andrew, I played the shit out of Mega Man X Dive offline. I did too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I played and fucking ran through that. I focused a lot on the, what do you call them? The, like, seasonal events, right? Because those were the ones that could unlock more, like, tickets to buy alternate outfits and different characters. So I focused on that a lot. And then, yeah, but, like, once I get to, the campaign, it's, it's all fun. Like, I like the characters. I like the narrative. I like how they present all these remixes of old levels. But it's just that start and stop. It just makes me sort of like it like I'm going to go insane. It's sort of like, I can drive, if I have to go on a road trip, like if I have to drive 2 hours to go somewhere, I can deal with it as long as I'm moving the entire time. Yeah, it's going to be long, but at least I'm moving. If I'm going, if it's 2 hours of travel time in stop and go traffic, like I'm going to shit my pants because there's just something about the tedium that's like get out of you are a tedium that's in the way and I don't need you here. Like, I love X Dive. I just wish they would have made it more full release game, right? Like, I think that's what I want to say about it. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things that happens when you put in no effort to change the systems from your mobile release to your full release. Yes, hey, Volume Dealer, how's it going on, amigo? Yes, that is Cyclops right under me. He is our stream buddy for tonight because we have X-Men talk to get to eventually. But yeah, this is Cyclops from Secret Wars when he fused with the Phoenix and tried to take on Doctor Doom. One of the best Cyclops moments. I was fanboying about it earlier. Yeah, but you got it. You hit it right on the head. Oh, what? Flex says, I'm still pissed that the online team just arbitrarily deleted my account. Ripped my everything, but especially Awakened to zero. What the fuck? Why did they do? Like, obviously you just said it was arbitrarily, so you don't know. But like, how does that happen? I'm pissed because I use Awakened to zero. He's the best one with his the big like wave attack, like the 2 slashes that eat up the screen, and then the ring that like plants itself and just like keeps whirling and spinning up enemies, and like what's that called? What the hell is that term? The meat grinder. Like you just send him into like a meat grinder and it just like keeps rolling through him. So that hits me like in the heart. Like that hurts. Let's see. Timon says Ariel Times New Roman, and it's like a couple different. It's like Ariel Times New Roman, Calibri, like MS Office or something like that. Helvetica, that's like another one of the big like main ones. Like those are just like, even if you don't know the names of the fonts, I guarantee almost every single one of you here would be able to identify like that's a standard font. Like I've seen that a lot of places, and so then that, you know, it takes away the unique identity of the game because you're like, oh, that's everywhere. That's just standard. Andrew says, I alternated most between Forte EXE and Forte Soul Mega Man. I just unlocked them like right before I put the game down for a little bit. So I didn't have a lot of experience with them. They were like the best design ones. Isn't there a Forte, like there's 2, aren't there? Because there's like Forte, the Forte Soul, and then isn't there like purple, like base G, like there's Forte GX, isn't there? Isn't that one of them too? I semi remember that. Yeah, my mains in that game were obviously Awakened to Zero for those awesome techniques. Swimsuit Layer, you know, my girl, like just couldn't believe that made it past the Capcom censors, especially in this day and age, right? Here, I'm going to pull up a picture because I love it so much. Yeah. Actual official release art. Maybe. Yeah. Hello. Like, how did that make it into a modern Capcom game? I was stunned. But yeah, I use her a lot, and then Proto Man. That's my boy. You can't ever go wrong with Proto Man. Let's see. The Phoenix costume actually looks cool in the game. Which game? Oh, it's right there. It doesn't look at the Phoenix costume in Future Fight. The Phoenix costume actually looks cool in the game. They added Madeline Pryor, and her character model is hot. I care about volume. He's a homie. But the one you're talking about is the one from the Avengers vs. X-Men event where he got like the red chest crest and the like golden visor. So that's that one. This one is from Secret Wars, where when Mr. Fantastic and Black Panther made a life raft to save everybody from the ending universes, they collected a bunch of like the most important heroes, and Cyclops was among them, and he smuggled a Phoenix egg onto the ship. So when they got to like, when the universe ended and there was no more Phoenix, it was able to hatch, and like, it was like, oh, new Phoenix time. So it hatched, and he took it, and he got this really rad costume. Cause it's basically his, Red X, like Cyclops' right costume, but with like Phoenix motifs. Super badass. Unfortunately, it exists for like 3 panels, like most good costumes. Again, Fear Itself Spider-Man, the super cool one with the glowing like blue webs. 1 panel. Literally, it's only ever appeared in 1 panel, and it's kind of a bummer because it's a pretty cool suit. Like, yeah, the wrist gauntlet things are the dumbest weapon I've ever heard of in my life, but the general blue Tron look of that Spider-Man, like I can never get over it. Oh, dude, well, that is weird. I just saw that I got cut off, guys. It just disconnected me from the chat too. It said chat disconnected. We'll try to reconnect, but so. Hopefully I'm back. Hopefully we're back in action. I should definitely check to make sure we're back in action, shouldn't I? Uh-oh. Okay, no, wait. Okay, no, we're good. I had to double check, but we are good. classic bass and treble, super bass EXE, bass GX, hub style bass EXE, bass cross Mega Man. That's right. Okay, like I knew the classic basses or the classic fortes. I'm the same way, Andrew. I can't call them bass. It's just I know it works in the scheme, but like no, forte is just like a way better name, especially when you have like blues and forte. Like it works way better. But yeah, like I remember all the classic fortes, but I couldn't remember if they had GX bass for EXE. What's what? What are we? What's this thing? If you're asking about the picture right here, this is a character from Mega Man X Dive. It is a character named Layer, but they gave her an alternate outfit that was a swimsuit. And I was just saying to everybody that like it's crazy that this got through Capcom because she looks good, and we all know, like we all saw Street Fighter 6, right? Like or Street Fighter 5 at the very least. Andrew says he's my favorite character in the Mega Man franchise. I wouldn't say I like him a lot. Like that's a good choice. Mine has to be Proto Man, like Blues. Like it's just, come on. Like he's got the scarf, he's got the red, he's got the visors. How is that not going to like hit exactly like what I want? But Forte to me is a super close like second. Like you know how we were talking last week, Andrew, about how like there's like when we were like with Dragon Ball characters, you're like Vegeta, Goku, and that's you. And then for me, it was like Goku, Vegeta, like all the way over here. Like not like I'm closer to you here. I would just like flip it around to Proto Man instead of Forte. But I love Forte. I love the fact that he like combines with bass to get the angel wings and like fly around. And I think I've talked about this before, but like the multi-directional arm cannon, how could I not love that? Like that's the best technique that they could have ever added to any Mega Man game. And yeah, it breaks it a little bit, but you know what? After years of playing it normal, like Mega Man 1 through 8 and Mega Man X through X4 or like X1, like I'll break it a little bit. Yes, Shinkai, Layer decided to take off some layers. Incredible pun work. Let's give it up for that pun work. All right. Let's see. Where's my water bottle? Or my second water bottle? One of them. Flex, you are reading my mind, Flex. That's insane because with that transition, I was going to say, with all that talk on Mega Man and Phoenixes and stuff, why not, we're about 2 hour and a half into the show. Why not transfer to, or, go on to our first main topic or first, the opener topic. Let's put it that way. Even though we've just been talking for an hour and a half, there's an opener topic that, I obviously hinted at the beginning. I am just opening it up right now. Again, remember how I said I've just been like run ragged this week? This is one of those problems. So let's see. Here we go. All right, I did it. So, in case you guys did not see this week, we had this issue, Web of Spider-Man. It is basically, obviously came from Marvel. It is what's the right word? A preview issue, if you will, where it's basically one of those issues where Marvel is providing you with a bunch of teases as to what's to come in the Spider-Man line in the next few years. Obviously, I just recapped what the little blurb said, featuring first taste of the biggest spider stories of 2024. First shout out I want to make before we even get into anything, like, I like Greg Capullo as an artist, and his he's doing a lot of Spider-Man lately, and he's really like bringing it. And I think he's got that good sort of exaggerated horror look, like that he used during the Mr. Bloom saga of his Batman run, which, yeah, Mr. Bloom's like whatever as a character, but his design is like really freaky. So definitely excited to see where that goes. Let's see. Before we move on, Volume says, I tagged you in an X post with Final Fantasy, or with, Future Fight Cyclops uniforms. Yeah, let's look at that real quick then before we get into that. Because I definitely want to see. Where is the tag? It'll probably come in a second, huh? Because we went through this last time. Remember, Volume Dealer? You're like, I tagged you, and it took like 3 seconds for it to like actually show up in my feed. Where? Let's go. Anybody. Messages. One message. Yeah, I don't see it yet. Where'd you tag me? Was it LOL Greg is a simp for the Butcher Baby singer? I don't know who you're talking, like I don't know who the singer is, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, where's your thing? Your tags never show up to me on Twitter, and I don't know why. And it really makes me like super pissed off because there's no reason for them not to show up. But hopefully it'll pop up when it does. Or maybe I can just do this. Maybe I can just do. There's got to be like a compilation image we can just look at, right? You gotta be kidding me. There's no just like, here are his costumes. That's what we want. Okay, I mean this'll work good enough, right? And then I can cycle. Oh yeah, this'll be fine. Oh, or I can wait a second and I can get the one right from my messages. There he is. Yeah. That one looks really fucking badass. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, let's jump back over to the browser real quick. Where, yeah, look at that. Like, that's pretty cool. I've always liked the suit legitimately, but this one makes it look even cooler, especially with like the red flames. Yeah, I like that one a lot. And then I had pulled up here, I guess are just like his standards. So you've got his 90s one, and you've got his Age of Apocalypse one, which is dumb. And you got, his Cyclops was right. That's, it's just so cool. It's basically like a super or like a Kamen Rider outfit all on its own. And then you have his dumb current outfit, which nobody likes. Nobody likes that outfit. Seriously, like this one is so good, and then this one's so iconic, and this one's just so boring. Like it brings me back to the days of Cyclops is boring, when everybody used to tout that little nugget around, and it definitely, I definitely never agreed, and I was definitely always upset. Oh, and we got a Colossus. Oh, the Colossus. Whatchamacallit? Like that looks really cool. Like the chest straps are a little weird. He looks very what's the word? Like Conan, like a barbarian. But you think it sucks? Like, okay, I think the bottom part sucks where he looks barbarianish, but I was taken aback by like the metal texturing and stuff on the crest. Like I am a big fan of that crest. It's hard for me to be mad at that crest. But yeah, like that one's not as good as Cyclops is. Like I even think they changed it, right? Like I feel like that Conan look, I guess that's what it's always been. I don't know. It never looked, I don't know. Why does it look so much worse in game? Right? But like, I'm not crazy. Something about it looks worse in game. I have no idea, but yeah, not that great. Give Colossus an axe. That would be fucking cool. Zero says, "Holy shit, this was Marvel's Avengers Alliance." No, this is Future Fight. It's a mobile game that it's like a roguelike, like Diablo type of game, but with Marvel characters. I think, is that this one? There's like 9 different like mobile titles out for Marvel that I cannot remember anymore. Because I think I played Future Fight. I genuinely think I used to play this one. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a mobile Marvel game. Nothing that cool as Avengers Alliance, which is like one of the best like things they ever, like pieces of media they ever made about Marvel characters, like just hands down. They will do different character design. Yeah, I can tell. But yeah, so back to our topic. And yeah, if you want to send me any more volume, I'm always up for making fun of those awful suits. But so obviously we start off with Madam Web. She says, let's sort of look at what we've got coming in the future. Now, we'll just do a quick rundown of sort of like the main points, if you will, of each story. So for the main Amazing Spider-Man book coming from Zeb Wells, it looks like they're just going to do more fallout from the gang war stuff. Like, it really, got to be honest, I really don't care about the gang, like mafia stuff in New York with Spider-Man. He's got lots of other like villains to fight, and this just sort of seems like you're treading water, like when you go back to the crimes. They just did Mystique, and it looks better than the costume version from Hellfire. Oh, they did her Hellfire one? Really? The new Hellfire costume? Let's see. Hellfire Mystique. Is it this one, right? The like, it's like the tribally looking one, right? With here, I have the picture right here. I don't know why I'm just trying to find examples with words when I could just, this one, right? Oh god, yeah. Where? Oh, because we're not even on the right window. That's why. This one, right? The Mystique one. This one wasn't bad. Like it wasn't high fashion. And again, I was very surprised that we got like to see Mystique as like in a feminine way. Tehillim asked, did you watch the video I sent you? No, I didn't get to. I know you sent me one like a day or two ago, but like I said, I've just been swamped with bounding work, and then I had something that came up yesterday that took me away from my desk. And so like I've been playing a catch up. As soon as this stream is done, I'm going right back to work on bounding. I've got articles to write, I've got contacts to reach out to, so I bear with me. I'm catching back up after like 2 days of having my nose down in work. So yeah, back to Spider-Man. So that's what we're getting there. Whatever, Zeb Wells, you're the worst. I don't really like. It's so hard for me to care. Miles Morales is, I guess, going to fight vampires now. I think we talked about this, or it was either last week or I talked about this on the 01 stream over on Bounding on Wednesday. They don't know what to do with Miles Morales. Like they've ever since the problem, or let me restart. When Miles first appeared on the scene, there was a lot of potential for him there, right? Like new character, how are we going to develop him? What are we going to do with him? Will he play into Spider-Man's life? Like yada, 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 yada. Once he became like a marketing tactic, a marketing item for everybody, where Marvel could go, look, we're so diverse. Don't you want to give us all your money now? Because you're black, he's black, give us money. Like once they started doing that with his character, it's very clear that that's all they care about with him. That you are Black Spider-Man. Fuck what we do with you. It doesn't matter what stories you're in. You just need to exist so that we can market you. That's why we have so many weird stories where like Miles in his own book, he had his own clone saga. He fought Carnage alongside Iron Man because that's something that Miles would do. Now he's fighting vampires, right? Like they don't know what to do because they won't allow him to become anything more than our Black Spider-Man. And it's a disservice to his character because we all know like he has potential. There are rarely bad ideas, just really, really, really bad executions. And Miles, unfortunately, started as a really good idea with a good execution and just torpedoed very, 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 very fast. The second Marvel said, race market him, I guess is like the best way, the best terminology I have to put it. Zero says, does he still have a sword? Yes, he still has a sword. He still has all of his stupid smorgasbord of powers. Again, right? They don't know what to do with him. So what do? We give him a sword, an electric bio sword. Again, he has all the powers you need. He can get out of anything. There's nothing to Miles. There's no conflict for him to have. There's no interesting grips for him to have. At this point, they've done so much damage to his character that he really only does work as, the sidekick to Peter. And I don't think they realize that. It's so funny. Insomniac did worse. They made Miles into Black Spider Jesus. I mean, that's what they all do in every media with Miles nowadays, right? Shinkai, Miles Morales, not just Black Spider-Man, but Black Thor from the Asgard hood. Yeah, I bring that up all the time. Very, 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 very like tone deaf, honestly racist issue to come out of Marvel. But it didn't matter because Black Thor, now Miles. Like, it was all about, did we hit everything that we could market it with, right? Black Miles is now Black Thor, and it's a what-if comic book, and maybe he can come in the future. Like, that's all they cared about. They don't think past, like, the moment they are existing in right now. Let's see. Yeah, Timon says, I know what to do with Miles Morales. Either kill him off or, like I've been advocating forever, make him his own character. He doesn't need to be Spider-Man. He needs his own rogues gallery. He needs to just be disconnected. Send him to do anything else, right? Like, when you have him around when Peter is around, it doesn't work. And you're not killing off Peter. You're not going to do, like, look at me, Marvel. Look at me. You're not going to do it. You never could. There's never been a storyline where Peter Parker has been dead, 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 dead. Oh, the fallout of Peter Parker being dead, right? Like that's just, it's never existed. The closest we got to that was The Other. But thanks to the dramatic irony of it all, while the characters didn't know Pete was okay, we all did. We all knew he was just cocooning and getting his organic webbing. Like that, it's a disaster. It's a disaster over there in the spider offices. Andrew says Marvel should pay me for my idea. I forget what it was, but they probably should. Drop it for me and I'll reread it. Because I know you've told it to me like 100 times, and I'm probably going to go do the Mav thing where I go, oh, yeah. But anything would be better than Pete or than Miles as he exists right now. Let's see. So that is what Miles is going to be up to in the next few months, I guess. Like, vampires. All right. Like, oh, you know how we were talking last week about how like Jed MacKay is just the most fine comic book creator like working right now? Like he is so serviceable. It just gets, you know, if you need a book out, he will get it out, but it will leave no sort of mark on the world. So there's an event coming up for Marvel called Blood Hunt. That's going to be revolving around vampires reaching out, you know, they do this every so often where they bust out the vampire angle. I feel like the last time they did it was 2009 with the X-Men Utopia stuff, and then they did it for a small arc in Jason Aaron's Avengers run. But overall, like I can already tell you guys, you're gonna have your big event, and you're gonna introduce like one new character and maybe kill off one character, and those are gonna be the giant changes that we get. And it's so blasé. There's not, because Marvel isn't really they don't lean into their horror stuff anymore as much as they used to, or even really at all outside of Marvel Zombies. There's nowhere for this vampire thing to be integrated. You're not, look at me, Marvel, look at me. You're not going to make a major character a vampire for anything more than a gimmick. So, like, to me, it's like, okay, Jed, will you write an event? It's going to hit all the points. You're going to see characters. Somebody will die. Somebody will go through a change. There will be a twist, and done. But it'll just be like one of those things where like, oh yeah, that happened. All right, now let's keep going. So like that's what's happening in Marvel in general, and that's what they have to throw Miles into. Like, shit, what do we do? Well, we have that event, just get him in there. Yes, Timon. Also make some heroes leave New York. Too many of them there. They've tried that before. Like they do that. Obviously the ones that stick out on the top of my head are like Daredevil went to San Francisco. The West Coast Avengers went out to Los Angeles for a time. The Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, my boy, for a short period when he was still not Chasm, he was in Las Vegas. But unfortunately, because it's Marvel and status quo above all is like the motto of their offices, it was only a matter of time before all of those heroes found their way back to New York, and they're there right now. As we'll see, they're trying that. They are literally trying that with Spider-Woman. Like, yeah, see, she's in San Francisco now, doing something, fighting people. There's going to be a super team that shows up, but yeah, they try. It really just depends on if they ever commit to it. That's the big thing in Western comics, right? Nobody commits because they know we can't take this off of the marketing for the next few years or whatever. Even though that logic has like never, ever made sense. For example, right? Dragon Ball's killed Cell, and Cell has been dead for ever since he died. I mean, you could argue Cell Max, but I would argue back on Cell Max. I'd say that's a different clone, yada. But Cell being dead hasn't stopped them from making Cell products, selling Cell merch, featuring Cell in all the video games, in the card games. He was a starter leader in the new card game, right? Like, fans are not so stupid that they constantly need to know, like, see their character flashed in front of their eyes to make them go out and buy a piece of merchandise. Marvel doesn't understand that. So that's, I complain about it all the time. Movie synergy. They always do it because they don't understand that while they are focused on right now and this moment, most other people have attention spans longer than a goldfish, right? Like, I am a Ben Reilly fan. They killed Ben off for 2 decades before he came back in Clone Conspiracy. And didn't stop me from buying all of his shit. It didn't stop me from getting excited to buy a Spider-Man game if it had his skin in it, right? Like, it's such a condescending way to look at your audience and at the creative work you're working on. And as like an artist and as one of those creative dorks, like, I just cannot stand for it, and it bugs me every time. Let's see. Flex says, theory, why are the Fantastic Four always out of town so Peter can't bunk with them to avoid paying rent on a Manhattan apartment? That's actually, I've never even thought about that. It's like, yeah, why doesn't Peter ever just, the Baxter Building's got a bunch of rooms. That's I like that, Flex. Like, I've genuinely never thought about that. Help a buddy out. Okay, so yes, this is Andrew's idea. I knew I had heard it before, so I'm just going to recap it to all of you. Theory, or prospectus, proposal, whatever we're going to do. Miles should never have been a Spider anything. He should have looked up to Spidey and Pete before finding his dead uncle and taking up the title of Prowler. You get to redeem that name and give him his own rogues and make him a more original black hero. Yes, yeah. Like, you have told me that one before, and I completely agree. That Prowler identity is sitting there ready for the taking, right? And let's all be honest with ourselves. The Aaron Davis like version, when they updated Prowler, it was pretty cool, like upgrade to a villain. They didn't go super wild. They didn't go and change him into like an Asgardian or anything. They just sort of upgraded his tech and made him a little scarier. And yeah, like, people know the Prowler, and that's the thing, right? With Miles, they always keep going back to the Prowler storyline. They can't escape it. Like that's like proof to your point, right, Andrew? Like, all the movies, all the comics, it's always going back to the moment where Uncle Aaron died and he was the Prowler and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's the same, like, beating the dead horse as Peter always going like, Uncle Ben told me great power, responsibility. Like, yeah, I like that line. It means a lot. It applies to the Spider mythos, but you don't need to bring it up to us every 15 seconds, Peter. Like, we remember from the last time you told us about it. So I definitely think that Prowler idea would have been way, 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 way better, right? And the reason I think I forgot that that's what your theory was, Andrew, is because I was too focused on like playing the hand we were dealt with him being Spider-Man, and I totally didn't even think about, like, what if we just didn't play that hand? What if we just had a different hand? So, like, yeah, that one's on me. But yeah, like, Prowler would have been cool, got great color. I mean, that's literally what they're doing in Spider-Verse, right? In the movies, the other Miles is Prowler. Yeah, he's evil, but he took up the identity. It's right there. It could have been poetry. It could have rhymed. Volume says that Black Spider-Woman drives up the wall. Which one? There's like 5 Black Spider-Women now, and none of them are fun characters. There's like the worst one. I don't know if anybody read it, because who cares about these Spider-Verse events anymore? But they introduced a new Spider UK who's like a young teenage black girl who's like full of like bite and vile, or not vile, but like piss and vinegar, and it's just so boring. And it's just like, we already had a Spider UK. Why did you have to give us another one? Like, what? You're trying too hard. Like, get the hell out of here. Flex says, seriously, Parker needs a new big time to put him back on top. Something like Horizons Labs, where he's not working for other superheroes or a former arch nemesis, Norman Osborn. I know that this is going to get me some pushback from Andrew, because we regularly have this like debate, but I am right there with you, honestly, Flex. Like, I genuinely think Peter needs to be able to grow, and I think him becoming not a businessman per se, but like a founder, the head researcher, the COO of a company or something, right? Like, I could see him doing that, and then, maybe you give the CEO to MJ because she has her business experience with Tony, or you give it to Liz Allen, right? Like, they're still friends, or any other number of people who exist in Peter's life. I think that is a sort of natural progression for Peter to go. And this also sort of relies on the idea of them progressing and aging, which we know Marvel doesn't really do. But to me, I've always sort of thought that, yeah, as Peter gets older and he gets closer to stepping out of the webs, why wouldn't he start giving his attentions to, how can I still keep making a difference? And it's not necessarily that I want it to divert his attention and have him give up being Spider-Man, but it's basically just, it's taking like what he was doing at Horizon and making it about him, because it's one of those details that I always love, but it always makes me so heartbroken, which is in most Marvel stuff, you always get whether it's Tony or Mr. Fantastic or Black Panther or Hulk or whomever, they go, they team up with Peter and they go, this kid's fucking brilliant. What is he doing? Like, why is he a superhero? Why isn't he sold his web shooter, like his webbing compound? The kid could be a millionaire. What the hell is he doing? Like, everybody's always confused about that. And I like that, but I also think not allowing him to sort of grow up's the wrong word, but sort of mature past letting the trauma of Ben completely weigh him down and letting him grow and see how else can I help the world, because that's really what he wants to do with his abilities. I think that would be a good growth. I genuinely fucking hate him working for Norman Osborn. I hate all this Osborn shit because we know what's going to happen. Nobody here... I think that's like one of the most frustrating things with all of like Western comic books nowadays. And one of the reasons I so vehemently call for creating a manga type line for Marvel and DC, where you give a book or a character to two people forever and just let them go with it. And no editorial mandates, no forced crossovers, none of that shit. Because when a story happens, I know it's going to happen. Oh, Osborn's good? Start the clock. It'll be 9 months until he's good or evil again. And we're already on the cusp of that switch happening. We'll see it a little later in this issue when we get into it. It's just, I don't even know where I was going with that because I got distracted by Volume Dealer. The pregnant one on a motorbike. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The one from Spider-Verse. I do not like that Spider-Woman. She's just, I don't know. I didn't like her characterization. I didn't like her attitude. I didn't like the way she treated Gwen. I don't know. She wasn't... It's one of those instances where they try to make a strong character, but they just end up coming off as like insufferable and like unhelpful to Gwen, right? Where it's one of those where it's like, why just be a normal human for once? Drop the like I've gotta be badass like act and just be a normal freaking human for 5 seconds. And then, yeah, Andrew says the Prowler is a sweet as hell name. And to be clear, I came up with that Prowler idea years before Marvel did it. That's for all of you. I knew that was an old idea. But yeah, copyright Andrew Rodriguez, 2009, NDA Wolf Industry. I don't know. I'm not putting it under the Rippaverse. It's yours. That is your property to own. That is your idea to own. Yeah. Peter working with Osborn is just insulting. It's insulting. Like, what am I trying to say? If we were at the very, very, very beginning of like the ultimate, like a new universe, right? Like, let's say we had taken everything. We were doing a reboot. We oh shit! I just popped that pen open that I was using. That's not good. Can I fix that before I spread ink everywhere? Okay, I did. Woo! Yeah, like if this was like the ultimate universe, right? And this was the first time Peter and Norman had come into conflict and they got over it. And this was like, oh, I've changed after that. I am cured of the Goblin. And it was literally only like a few months of him being Goblin. I can see Peter being like, okay, I will let my guard down. I will give you a chance because I like you as a person. You're my best friend's dad. And I respect, redemption is what we do here as superheroes. It doesn't work after like 45 years of him doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. Like, he's sure you want to let him be good. Okay, don't go work for this guy. Like, you owe him. It's so stupid. And none of it. I mean, again, this is Zeb Wells we're talking about. The same guy who chasmed everything up, who what's the other awful one that he did recently? It's not the chasm thing. It's the Paul thing, right? Like this is Zeb Wells who gave us Paul. This is Zeb Wells who... Okay, remember how Kamala Khan dies in that Spider-Man issue to... I don't even remember who the hell they're fighting in that issue. Oh, it's Rabbit or whatever. The Zeb Wells' original character villain, Do Not Steal. When he kills Kamala, right, in that Spider-Man issue, first of all, who cares? Like, this is not why are you killing off Kamala in a Spider book? Second, I only learned this like this week. She was only in 7 panels throughout the like 14, 15 issue arc that she was a part of this. So you had 7 panels, and then you make her the crux of death of your storyline. And it's just like, well, like, why do you think I use that clip of George Lucas yelling at Zeb Wells as my intro or as my outro? Like, I know I've shown that to you guys before, but it's my outro now because it's literally just my only reaction to any time I see Zeb Wells' name like appear on anything. Vera Dark, first of all, Vera, my girl, how's it going? Always a pleasure. Always lights up the day when I get to see you in my chat or even just talk to you or see one of your videos. But maybe he's changed. He was misunderstood the whole time. How could I have forgotten poor little misunderstood Norman Osborn throwing people off bridges and abusing his own son? He's totally redeemable. I mean, now that you bring that up, Vera, like, I know I was doing like that little mock right there, but when I was doing the handshake, I realized, like, with Marvel's, or with like the media's turn to redeeming all the heroes and redeeming every villain, and everybody's sympathetic and nobody's a true villain, maybe this does stick and they try to make Norman like a permanent good guy forever, which, like, I'm torn because, like, on one hand I'd be like, okay, kudos for actually doing something, but then I would be like, like, this is the bad idea. Like, okay, like, you're okay, A for effort, like, you're dedicated, but also, like, I want to help you because this is a very, very, very bad idea. Like, I mean, Norman should have just been gone 400 years ago. What is there left for him to do? After this, after you do the Norman Osborn morality flip story, literally what else do you have to do with him? Like, that was the last story. Yeah, so Andrew also says, I do like a lot of the design elements of the Gold Goblin suit. Here, let's see. Yeah, it's actually the next page over. So Gold Goblin suit's not terrible in reality. I just don't like that it's Norman. I think that's like my big sticking point, is that I look at this and I go, this is supposed to be Norman. It's not Norman. Like, stop trying to trick me into thinking he's a hero. And like, and to me, guys, it's sort of like, I'm trying to think of like a really good or like a really stupid analogy that would make this work. Imagine if, like, Osama bin Laden, right? After 9/11, he decided, I'm going to give up all this terrorist stuff. I actually want to help the U.S. I'm like flipping over and I'm going to become like an asset for them now, right? And then they went, okay, cool. You're on our side now. But then they kept him like he kept appearing in really shoddy videos in caves with like people who look like they're insurgents and not like U.S. soldiers or something. You would go, you still look like the bad guy. Like, that's what I'm trying to say here about Norman, is like, you're still flying around on your goblin glider and you are calling yourself Golden Goblin. Like, I don't know if this is a brand you should try to redeem. Like, pick up a new moniker or a new method of transportation, right? Like, just don't go out reminding people, oh yes, I was the guy who killed Gwen Stacy. I was the guy who almost destroyed the world because I unleashed the void on Asgard, right? Like, it's so bizarre to me. And I know there's a lot of, you can redeem like tarnished names or brands or any of that sort of stuff. But I go back to what I was saying. Norman has like 50 years of history where he is the shittiest person on the planet. Like, child abuse, sleeping with your son's best friend's like love of his life to get her pregnant, and then telling her the kids had died so that you could keep them as your secret super soldiers, kidnapping your arch nemesis's baby from the hospital after she's born, and question marks. We still don't know where Mayday technically is in 616 continuity, right? Like, and then that's to say nothing of all the various bombings and all the times he's, killed innocent civilians, or all the times he's clashed with other heroes. It's just like, that is not really I think it's like one of those brands that we can all go, we're good with it. Like we should probably move on past that. Flex says, Peter should have let Otto have the company. I mean, he technically started Peter Industries anyway. Aren't mind swaps fun? If you actually, they actually are addressing that right now in the Superior Spider-Man Returns or whatever that they're doing by Slott. It doesn't really amount to more than Otto going, mine. Like this is my company. Like that's literally all of his return amounts to. Shinkai says, or Flex also says, Hydra wanted Parker Industries destroyed. Peter unknowingly obliged them. Otto would have saved the company after taking it over. Nice job breaking it, hero. I give Peter a slight pass on that one because at the time he had just gotten his like body back and his mind, and he was like sort of like trying to get acclimated to everything, and then Secret Empire pops off, and it's just like, okay, he doesn't have all the info, so he's just going to do like what he thinks. Yeah, of course Otto would have saved it because Otto is by definition the superior Spider-Man. But unfortunately, he was not around at the time. Shinkai says, Peter and Harry Osborn pals that work together maybe. Peter and Norman or Otto only work if dynamic similar to Lex and Clark in Smallville, but I don't see that happening and still just a timer. And I 100% agree with you, Shinkai, and that's sort of what I was saying, right? Like, if this was like a new universe and that was the dynamic we had established way at the beginning, this could work. Again, different dynamic. Peter, maybe maybe Norman's only been a goblin once or twice, and maybe he hasn't, led a siege of Asgard. Like, there are points in a story about this could work. This is not a point where this story is going to work on anybody. Least of all because we know that these timers exist, that it's always a matter of time before a hero goes back to being a villain. I mean, again, going back over to DC, Lex, right? Remember back during Snyder's Justice League run, Lex ended up becoming Superman because Clark was gone. And he was genuinely trying to be a hero and genuinely trying to work on the Justice League. And there were some good stories about him trying to redeem himself. Then 3 months later, he all gets thrown out the window because we've got to have Lex Luthor be our villain. I think I just hit on it like right there. Like the smoking bullet is you can't do this shit with characters who are iconic, who are hyper established. Like when you think Spider-Man, who do you think of villains? Green Goblin. Is anybody going to seriously take like a reformed Green Goblin seriously? No, like it's just nobody would ever think that. Just the same as nobody would take a reformed Joker, a reformed Lex, a reformed Reverse Flash, a reformed Red Skull, a reformed. I mean, I was going to say Magneto, but we all know that Marvel can't even make up their minds on like what alignment he is on any given day. So it's just. The idea is not inherently bad. It's just the execution, where they decided to do it, how they decided to do it, is giantly, like, just a giant miss, just altogether. Flex says, now that Otto's regained his memories as Superior Spidey after relearning Peter's identity, they become these weird frenemies now. Here's the thing. I really like Superior Spider-Man, and I have always been of the opinion that Otto should have kept. Remember, he like cloned a bot. He cloned Peter, but then like added his DNA to it. So then he got that like really nice, handsome, like suave body that he was in for a while when he was the Superior Octopus. Like, I think he should have stayed like that. I thought that was a really good character development, and it would have made all of this like frenemy stuff work a lot more. Nowadays, it doesn't, because. And this is also a Zeb Wells thing, because Zeb Wells has written Doc now, like recently, to just be a giant whiny crybaby. Here, like, I need to bring up this clip from Scrubs because it is what's going through my head when I'm thinking about how all of these characters are now, right? Like, and also, guys, like Scrubs, best show in the world. Like, I loved that show so much. Like, it ate up my my adolescence, right? But yeah, so let's go over here. Like, this is how Otto acts now, especially, yeah, like I was saying, this is Otto now. This is Otto in shape, in behavior, and it sucks. Oh.
That's when we ran into a brick wall.
I'm head of the radiology department. You call me in from home to do an abdominal CAT scan that could wait until Monday morning. Well, guess what? It's not happening.
Look, Dr. Moyer.
These are my machines! machines!
Sir.
My machines!
Whose machines?
My machines!
How is that helpful?
They're mine! My machines! My machines! My machines!
Like, yo, shout out to Jacob. You know I'm gonna be going over
Maybe
there
I just
right
like
when
blitz
this is
flashed
done.
that
Oh, took us over here right now.
part.
Everybody
but
wave!
They never actually explained how
Okay.
they
Hi, Jacob!
impregnated her without her knowledge to begin
Hi,
with.
Jacob.
No.
We're freebooting your content. Hi,
trying
Jacob.
to draw logic into this, and I know.
Okay, back to the comic book. But yeah, like that's what Otto is nowadays. He's just a petulant, like, mine. I'm better than you. And like spittle like flying over. He's back in his fat body, and it's just like, I can't take this guy seriously anymore. You've just turned him into a cartoon, right? Like you've turned him into a literal cartoon, and it's just you've ruined the character. So I'm so torn on how his return has been going because it's just really, really bad. And then there's the fact that his entire return is predicated on like retconning in a villain that didn't exist. And it's just, I'll wait for the trade. I'll wait till it's all over. And then, Barack Osama bin Laden, like that. There you go. That they give him that name and they try to run him for president. But if he's still in the caves and he still is filming on like 240p, people are going to go, I don't know if I really believe it. Volume Dealer says, the Red Goblin is really cool, minus the dirty bum looking facial hair on his face. There are two Red Goblins. Which one are you talking about? Because I agree on both of them. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to remember which one has the dumb facial hair. Because, yeah, like I generally did like the Red Goblin. I like their designs. I don't like the concept of them being like symbiote goblins. Oh, okay, here we go. Like we're just throwing everything at the wall. But I genuinely like their designs to the point where like, I'm not against seeing them. Like, it's a pretty cool fight. Flex says, did not expect Doc Ock Spidey bromance in my 2024 bingo card. I hope it stays that way. Like, again, there's such a disconnect between Wells and everybody else. I mean, this is Wells on Core and then Slott on Superior. So, like, there's a break in their styles. And it just, I don't know, it didn't. They don't communicate and it doesn't like transfer everything over really well. And it's just, I don't know. Again, my problems it all boils down to Wells, like 100%. On second thought, to add to my previous comment, says Shinkai, that's Peter and JJ instead of Peter and Harry or Peter and Osborn and stuff. Yeah, like, again, Ultimate Spider-Man, go for that dynamic. I love that dynamic with Jonah nowadays. That would make Gold Goblin better if Otto took over his body. I maybe like just if that's what happened, it would probably be a better turn. But I also just think that would just be another one of those ridiculous, like, what are we doing? You're just mashing everything together, looking for something to stick. Like, we did this already, and now he's Norman. Like, I just think it would retread too much. And I mean, I don't put it past Marvel. We know that. Like, we know what they do. No, Flex, we're not talking about Chasm yet. We will get to him because he's coming. But Volume says the Carnage one. All I know about New Marvel is Fantastic Four. Here, I'll show you what I mean because there's Norman Red Goblin and then sorry, it's my eye here. I'm gonna bring the results over here and we're going to go back to the web. Because, yeah, so there's the Norman one here. Whoops. Yeah, so, like, there's I don't know what's going on. But, yeah, you've got the Norman one. And, yeah, I agree. I hate, like, the bushy eyebrows. And like, it looks really, really bad. So, yeah, you have that one. But then there's also this one. No, he looks different. Because it's, man, they don't have a good one. Because he loses the facial hair stuff nowadays. Because basically what I'm trying to say is Red Goblin is now his own character. It's Norman Osborn's like grandson. Yeah, okay, so I guess he still does have the same facial hair. Okay, so it is still the same design. I was the big dum-dum. I think, was that the one I was thinking of? Yeah, see, nowadays I think they've ditched the hair and it's just normal now. But yeah, like I hate the eyebrows and the like pointy chin and so who knows? Oh, Future Fight is what you're saying, Volume Dealer. Got it. That makes more sense than Fantastic Four. All right. So yeah, coming up, we have Norman, but also this is sort of what I was talking about. At the end of the last arc, they sort of hinted that Norman's being a goblin again, and that's what happens up here. I'm the only thing left to remind you of what you used to be, and maybe not, and maybe not, and because he knows the goblin's coming back, blah blah blah. It's boring. It's predictable. It's boring. Who really cares about that? Oh, Gwen Stacy is going to be in a mini series that crosses over with the TVA from MCU. Really not like, this isn't me being like mean or like dismissive. There's just nothing to talk about with the story. We don't know anything. I told you all that we know so far is that Gwen teams up with the TVA. So we'll see how that happens. I don't really care about Gwen's character that much anymore. She's kind of become a Mary Sue, or not a Mary Sue, but she's just sort of like what we were talking about everywhere. She's everywhere. And I'm just sort of like, scale it back. Like, you were cool at the beginning, but now I'm completely over you. So here's why I wanted to bring up this issue in particular, right? So as part of this preview issue, of course, we're touching upon all the Spider family. You know, we saw Miles, we saw Pete, we saw Gold Goblin. Of course, we had to make a check-in on Ben, right? So Ben is still chasming it up. There he is. Oh, I'm so excited. But basically, according to this story, Chasm is now broken out of his like prison at Madeline Pryor's Limbo Embassy, and he is out on his own doing whatever. They literally, the setup for this issue was Madeline just says, yeah, I could have stopped him from escaping, but I didn't. He's on his own now. He's on his own adventure. So we literally don't know what's going to happen. I'm still pissed. Like, I will never not be angry until he's back to normal. And I can only pray this gets him back to normal. I'm going to be very angry if we get another Ben is actually villain like arc in Marvel in general. Like, I'm just done. I hate it. Bring Ben back. You ruined his character. I know I'm just hitting the same points I hit every stream, but I'm so beyond angry that they're trying to do something here instead of just please, like, take it back. Retcon it so fast. Just nobody likes this. Nobody is a Chasm fan. Nobody says, wow, I'm so excited to see what happens with Ben now. Just awful idea. However, in the interest of transparency, I do have to make an admission. It doesn't make me happy to make this admission, but I do like something about Chasm's design, and it's new. We haven't seen it until this issue, but this like energy whip web thing, don't know what the hell it is. His web shooters don't make any sense. Like, I don't know why they're caught like energy soul power. They didn't even explain that. He just popped out of the goo with glowing wrist shooters, but I don't know. I just really like whip weapons. We need more of them in media, like just in general. Like, I'm not even a big God of War fan, but using the Blades of Chaos in the original trilogy, it's incredible. It's so much fun. And yeah, I just want more games or more characters, more medias with whips and whatever the hell kind of weapon you would call whatever we're looking at here, right? Yeah, Volume Dealer, that I think we've all talked about this before. The costume itself is actually pretty cool. Or like it's got its appeal. There's things I would change on it. Like, I don't like the connection here that you see on his mouth, the way that sort of blends together with his chest spider. I'd probably erase that. But overall, it's not a bad costume. It's just, this isn't Ben. This is not Ben as a character. This is just another, you wanted a bad spider person, so you did it for Ben. Again, I'll remind you guys, there's literally a letters page that we reviewed a long time ago where they go, oh yeah, we have Miles. What is the point of Ben? We're going to say goodbye to Ben. Like, that's why we made him Chasm, because we have Miles. Screw you. Like, go home. You'll still buy it. Fuck you. Yeah, Volume Dealer. He does kind of look like Spawn, especially with like the eyes and then like the glowy chain. That's another, thank you, Volume. That's like a comparison I was looking for with this stuff. It's like Spawn, right? Like Spawn with his chains. Like, that's what it reminds me of too. Like, just more cool weapons like that, where you like wrap things around and you use like the environment to swing it. Just really cool. Like, that's what I want. Yeah, it's just, I want more of that in media. Tehillim says, almost looks like something to counter Miles Morales. It's funny you say that, because remember how Andrew was sharing his idea for Prowler earlier? As soon as we got to this page and started talking about it, I went, that could be like a Prowler-esque costume, or like if he's trying to transition between Spider-Man to Prowler, or he's trying to honor both of them. Like this is definitely like a very Milesy costume. It definitely feels like it should be him. Also, gotta shout it out at every, or not shout it out, but voice my displeasure at every opportunity. Stop giving Greg Land work, please. Like, this guy just traces like all of his stuff from like old, like it's not even just like tracing photos anymore. He just traces his old works. There is a comparison image I do not have on my hand right now, but it's on Twitter. Maybe I'll retweet it after we're done for tonight. But see this shot of Ben right here? It's like he's done the same spider pose like 9 times. And it's just like, why does Marvel keep giving him work? And you know what the saddest part is? If you go back and you look at like Greg Land's early work, like in the 90s and the early 2000s, the dude actually has chops. He can draw. You can see he leans a little into the house like Marvel style, but he's definitely like got potential. And then he just decides like, oh, I can be lazy and I can just trace everything and I can just go hyper photorealistic, and it just looks so bad. And please stop giving him work. He could be a demon fighter Spider-Man. That would be cool, right? Like if like an alternate costume, you're saying, Volume, where it's like, oh, I have to go into limbo to fight some demons. What are we like? I need a suit, and you give it to him, and it's like, all right, I have my suit. I could see that working too. It's just trying to make it like, ooh, I'm a big old badass spooky guy who's so sad and angry and bleh, all the time. Like it just doesn't work this time around. And so that was the biggest thing I really wanted to complain about. We're getting more Chasm. I'm so sick of Chasm. Just undo it already, Marvel. I am begging you. As for the rest of the previews, not a lot to really write home about. A very basic Miles and Peter story, which is going... it's a preview for Greg Weisman, the guy who wrote Spectacular Spider-Man, Young Justice, Gargoyles, all those cartoons. He's getting a book in the next couple months, Spectacular Spider-Man. So... this is just a little preview at their dynamic, yada yada. As my homie Flex said a little bit ago, Kane is coming back. We're gonna get some more Kane stories. We really don't know what. Apparently it's going to be interacting with the Eternals, which is like, that's a little desperate, right? Like what a world we live in. But I'm always excited to see more Kane. I really do like him as a character. Look at this shit though. Like, Greg Land, this face looks so weird. I can't get over like how much it bothers me. Like, his eyes are too big and they still try to be photorealistic, but then he just throws in like random comic book like scar. I don't know. It just, stop giving him work. I am begging you, Marvel. Let's see. So yeah, Druig's there. 2099 is, I guess, going to be fighting a version of Gwen Stacy this is Edge of Spider-Verse, so 2099 will be there. I guess there's a version of Gwen Stacy who's the Green Goblin. Like, it's all predictable, right? Like, nobody... I don't even know why we're doing more Edge of Spider-Verse stuff. It's clear that they're just milking the idea because, oh, people will buy a Spider-Man thing. But overall, it's just like, I'm done. And then like, oh, Gwen Stacy is Green Goblin. Okay. This isn't really like shocking anymore. Especially because, like, we know alternate universe. Okay, just get out of here. Yeah, Flex. Kane versus Riley rematch. The Clone Saga comes full circle. I would love it. And then maybe maybe Kane knocks the shit out of Ben hard enough that it knocks him back into his hoodie. I don't know. Anything at this point though would be a welcome change to what we have now. But yeah, like, that's the most unexciting look you have at the future of the Spider-Man comics. Like, there's nothing in there that even if I was into, like, even if I liked these prospects, nothing here is catching. Like, there's just nothing that makes me go, ooh, could be cool. I'll check it out. I'm only interested in seeing Ben because I want to see Ben back to normal. And I feel like every appearance we get of him is one issue closer to actually getting back to normal. But until then, obviously, we're just going to be stuck with, the worst storylines we could possibly ever ask for in the realm of Spider-Man from here on out. Yeah, volume. That right volume. Aunt May is Gwen Stacy as Green Goblin. And why stop there, right? Let's go full Marvel's writer room. And it's like Aunt May is Gwen Stacy as Green Goblin. Is Spider-Man, is Black, is multiverse. Like, I don't know. Let's throw everything out there. I guarantee we'll probably see a version of that in Spider-Verse, right? Or in whatever this version of Spider-Verse is. So we clearly spent a lot more time on Final Fantasy than I think any of us were really expecting. I'm just going back to look at Ben, because if we're gonna look at graphics, I'm at least gonna look at my guy and pray. But yeah, so we had that big long talk on Final Fantasy. We all got into that. So we are running short on time, but that doesn't mean Spider Side is not out there, Flex. Actually, if you go and you watch Edge of Spider-Verse, the Spider Side of Earth 616 is actually working in the Spider Society. All right. I'm being pedantic, but that actually is that actually is true. It's the Earth 616 Spider Side is the one that's currently working in Spider-Verse. So maybe they remember that, maybe they don't, but I'd always be up to see Spider Side. I'm always up at this point in my life. I'm up to seeing all those goofy 90 things. Like, nothing there makes me, like, ashamed or makes me go, like, no thanks. It makes me go, like, simpler times, right? Like, simpler times when we can just be over the top and off the wall, and it worked. Grant, yeah, Andrew, there you go. Aunt May is Mephisto, Granny Goblin. Oh, dude, Aunt May is Mephisto. Just like with Vera earlier, I hate it because I can see that one being true, Andrew. Like, I didn't really give you Aunt May back. I've been Mephisto this entire time. I got you. Like, oh, no. Like, just stop. Undo all that shit and let these characters grow and let them go do literally anything else than just continuing to bicker over who gets to be Scarlet Spider and whether or not Peter can get rent. Because I think we are all just completely over that. So yeah, like I was saying, that's the end of my Spider rant. I really just wanted a moment to yell at Marvel about Ben, because as I tweeted earlier this week, I will not shut up until he's back to normal. But it is that time. I think we should probably hit the main thumbnail topic for tonight. Thankfully, we are only 2 episodes into this particular show instead of the what was it for Avatar? It was like 8 or 10 episodes, and that took us, like, we went 2 hours or like an hour over our normal allotted time, that show. So I think with this, let's talk some X-Men 97. It finally premiered. I don't know, there's not a lot. I'm not going to, go step by step and break down everything, because I don't think we need to get that in depth tonight with the time limit. But, let's talk. Let's I'm just going to give let's talk. I'll give my thoughts. We can talk, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why I'm having so hard vamping in this moment. But X-Men 97, it is finally here. And after all the weeks of previews and discourse and Bo DeMeo being fired, and we still don't know why, what we get is a very, very mixed bag of a result, right? So, let's go through the good, the Mav, the ugly. So the good of this reboot is that I genuinely think the writing is pretty top notch. I was there are some moments where it leans a little hard on the mutant as a gay or LGBT metaphor. There's particularly a scene with Roberto da Costa where he talks about, like, oh, I hide myself from my parents. I don't even like being me. And it's just, it feels a little like too on the nose, but not enough on the nose enough to, like, get, it's not like completely in your face. It's just, you will notice if you're sort of in our sphere and you're aware of these things. But there, there is a, or how should we even approach this? So, episode 1 is basically we pick back up from where we left off years ago. The X-Men are still running around. They are trying to protect mutants when they can. That's where this scene comes in, where they are protecting Roberto da Costa. We all know him as Sunspot. Let's talk about the elephant in the room before we move on from da Costa. Yes, he looks very, 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 very feminine. There's no denying that, right? For those of you who aren't as art or like acquainted as some of the others in the crowd, or as myself, the reason you're seeing him so effeminate is because they gave him wingtip eyeliner on the sides and they emphasize his lips, which is not something you typically do when you're trying to communicate like a masculine character, because those are female traits that you are overemphasizing, because that's what animation is, right? You have a limited amount of visual space to work, or like visual canvas to work with, and you need to communicate those ideas really fast and easily so that people know what they're looking at without having to sit there and go read an Ultimania or something, right? So oh yeah, I'll go back to Storm in a second. Don't worry, guys. But and it's very interesting you guys bring up Storm, because there's something I do want to talk about there. But yeah, so you would normally only give them eyeliner and big plump lips if you were trying to communicate that they're feminine. For some reason, there is now this trend among I don't know what, I don't want to say all animators, but there's obviously this subsection of here. Yeah, I've got to find this picture because I know. Okay, perfect. That was faster than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, so I don't know where this is coming from, but there's like an uptick in this just being applied to standard male designs. And I say that because not only do we have it with Roberto here, but Magneto is the same way. Like, unambiguously not gay, like still straight Magneto, old man Magneto has like wingtip eyeliner and plump lips. We'll see it as we get in. But then I noticed it the first time when, let's see, I really hope, oh no, I think this is the one we were on last. But I remember noticing this design choice with He-Man, where, as you can see here, this is He-Man from the whatever it is, the second season, Revelations. I don't know. I'm not a He-Man guy, but like, look at he looks very feminine. And I was talking with Josh about it, and it's like, that haircut is not necessarily a feminine haircut. You know, the long hair, you know, ponytailed back. We see it a lot in sort of like barbarian fiction and stuff. I mean, Khal Drogo, right? Like from Game of Thrones. But you can see that he has the eyeliner and the plump emphasis on his like top lip. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, I cannot tell you, aside from going like conspiracy theory and going like, oh yeah, it's about the, you know, feminization of everybody. Aside from going there, I don't understand why this is becoming a trend. But that is what is happening with Roberto. And like, you guys, obviously I wouldn't be one to, unless if this was really what they were doing, trying to make Roberto gay out of nowhere and super effeminate, I'd call it out. But unfortunately, this time around, it seems like it's just a very, 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 very bad animation like design choice, right? So yeah, let's go back to that Storm shot. Yeah, Tehillim asks, why does Storm have a man's chest there? Where are her cups? That's about as much as X2. So yeah, like, I actually will push back a little bit on you, Tehillim, because Storm is actually surprisingly the like curviest one. And I noticed this especially because if we go here at the end, right, there are these profiles that they do where they're sort of, it's very clearly the 3D models they used in the animation that they're just showing you like turn around. But you see all the characters, you saw Jean a second ago, but I saw Storm and I was just like, whoa, they like, look at this. Like, her chest is very like emphasized. Like they did the thing where they like, for lack of a better term, like the boob socks where her boobs individually go into the suit, instead of like we saw with Jean a couple seconds ago, where see how Jean's is like one connected thing, and that ends up sort of like taking away some of the definition. It's a very weird, again, this show is all over the place in its design philosophies, in what it's trying to do, in what it's trying to communicate. That's why it's hard to be like, this is good. It's just very, very confusing, right? Yeah, Shinkai, yeah, funny enough, Magneto looking more feminine, in my opinion, long flowing hair that blows in the breeze. But yeah, see, like, here's Magneto nowadays. You guys can't really see his lips here, but you can see, like, they gave him the like it's supposed to be like crow's feet, but they connect it so it looks like he has wingtip eyeliner. It's really, I can see what they're going for. They just did not pull it off. And yeah, gay, and then hey, what's going on? I still listen to that like jam, like, and I have to listen to the He-Man version where like it cuts away to the kitchen and what's his name is like cooking and you can hear it like through the door or whatever. Like that's the best one. But so, yeah, basically the X-Men are back. They're here. This first episode involves them saving Roberto da Costa from the Freedom of Humanity terrorists, like the pro-human terrorists. And they eventually discover that Bolivar Trask is working on a master mold, and they go off and they fight it, and they fight a bunch of Sentinels. And that's where that clip that we watched like a week or two ago of the big like Sentinel fight, that's where that comes from. And that's basically the plot of the first episode. And then it ends, as we saw, with Magneto showing up and going like, oh, guess what? Charles left everything to me. So to me, my X-Men. It's actually like a pretty good like delivery of that line. Yeah, Timon, that's good. Magneto looks like Granny Goodness from DC. That's a really, really good comparison. I like that. That is accurate. So, I am going to highlight this because this is my show and he's my hero. Like he's my favorite X-Man. And I'm sure you guys have all seen this, but so like, I'm going to play a little bit of this so you can sort of see what I'm talking about. But the animation in this is kind of rough. I've compared it a lot to early Flash animation where there's not a lot of frames. Everything is very, very stiff. Everything is very, you know, there's not a lot of, what's the right term am I looking for? Like cohesion behind everything. It very much feels like things were thrown on top. It feels like they're just making the animation go because it does. And it's rough. I think you guys can sort of tell. The effects look like, it looks good, right? Obviously it's HD, it's 4K. The effects, I really like the animation effects, but it's all sort of a little wonky. But while the animation is bad, right? The choreography of this show and its composition is, I am being blown away at almost like every shot at how well this is like framed, how fun the action actually is when it happens. And to that end, like this shot is Cyclops. Yeah, Volume. I think that's a good point. The voices don't sing to the lips. I'm going to touch on that in a second. Hold on to that point for me, Volume, because that is something I want to talk about. But to that point, right? Like it's obviously got like the 3D model animation. Everything's rough. Things don't really line up all the way. But the choreography is like, dude, that is some sick shit. And I bring up and I point to this Cyclops fight clip that I'm going to play. You've probably seen it going around on Twitter because it was shared by Marvel. But like, I watched this and it's one of the best Cyclops moments. Like he uses his optic blast to push himself back. He starts swinging. He's blasting all over the place. He like takes out the guy's leg. He's ricocheting around to like whip. This is super sick. Like I can't deny. It's a really cool Cyclops fight moment. Like even like like it continues. They fire the Sentinel hand. It all really, really. Oh yeah, he tackles him out of the way, keeps fighting, gets Bolo shot. Right, Shinkai, that right? Like it looks good until it moves wonky. Right, like here, pause. Not a bad still shot, right? This looks like it's a normal animated show. It looks like you guys put care and craft into it, but then we hit play, and it just feels off. None of it feels like it's right. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is, oh yeah, I gotta pause this because this is something I get really pissed off about. But and it's not the fashion show or anything. If you know me, which I'm sure most of you do, and you're looking at this shot, you'll know exactly why I'm angry about it. But like, yeah, it's obviously a lot of that has to do with the fact that they use 3D modeling to do the animation. Which, by the way, guys. There's an interview where the animators were like, we hand drew everything and then we went over it with 3D modeling. And I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with like, why? Like there was no reason for that. It looked incredible as it was, right? So it's just one of those like baffling things to me. X-Men versus Mega Man Corps. I wish I would be. Oh, you're talking. Yeah, no, the Friends of Humanity with their like blaster weapons. That was my first thought to moan, because they even got like the energy counter on the side here, right on the forearm. Volume says, I've never seen Scott do anything like that before. They made him cool. Like, that's the thing. It's like he does a lot of these cool things in the comic books. And, you know, like we watched the anime clip last week and he was doing some really cool shit there. But so many people fell into that trap of Cyclops is stuck up, stuffy leader man. He doesn't do anything cool. That it like ruined his character for like the last few decades. But when you let him out and you let him start doing wild shit, you remember like, oh, this is so cool. Like Cyclops is the man. Yes, Shinkai, definitely sounds like they are overcomplicating the process. It is 1,000% overcomplicating the process for something that, you know, you guys know the uncanny valley, right? So there's this term in computer graphics or like CG where once we reach a certain point, you know, like CG looks good and we can be like, okay, that's a CG thing. And then once it gets to a certain point, it looks too realistic, but not realistic enough where we go, something is off here. Like your eyes don't move right, even though they should. You know, the light isn't reflecting off of your teeth the right way when you smile. Something is very, very odd here. And, oh my gosh, where was I even going with that one? I don't even remember what like legitimately I don't remember what point I was making with things looking weird or anything like that. So oh no, yes I do. Uncanny Valley. Yeah. So when you look at those you go, like I know you're trying to make it realistic, but it's just like it doesn't look human, and I know it doesn't. Same sort of thing with animation here, right? When they use 3D models, you go, I know it's an animation and I know it's a cartoon and I know what it's supposed to do, but because you've now brought in this extra layer of like physics and a different like a 3D plane into the animation, it doesn't work right. Your brain can't suspend disbelief the same way it can when you are looking at just like a straight piece of animation. But for those of you who couldn't guess, the thing that pissed me off the most about this page is that it is a Daily Bugle page, and yet they did not hyphenate Spider-Man. If you look up there, it says, is Spider-Man a mutant? No hyphen. No hyphen! No hyphen! How dare they? How dare they? How absolutely dare they? Yes! Cyclops knocked them out with that pretty boy gaze. Cyclops from next Final Fantasy protagonist. Honestly, the X-Men are already like a Final Fantasy group, right? Where it's like, I love you. No, I love you. No, oh, she's dead. Oh, no, we have to save the world. Oh, no, she's back. Oh, gosh, we got betrayed. But, oh, the betrayed person is back on our side. I think you could like... There was that awful X-Men like Destiny like video game a couple years ago. Instead of that, do like a Final Fantasy style RPG for the X-Men. I think there's a lot of potential there. And yes, Zero, mention of the Hellfire Gala. At least it's just a mention. It's just there. Like, but I mean, do you also notice what it says there? Zero, it's a good little Easter egg, even though it's Hellfire Gala. So it says, obviously, Hellfire Gala, that's the story. Text by Eddie Brock, photos by Peter Parker. That's pretty good, right? Like that means it's Venom and Spider-Man. They're there. Like I, of course it was me. Of course I noticed that, and I was just like, yeah. And then if you can't see it, this is I mentioned this on Wednesday, but right here, there's a poster on the phone pole, a missing poster for Marrow. You know, the mutant who can like take her bones out and like stab and use them as swords. Like I love her, and I'm just sad that we don't ever get to see her anymore. Like she's so cool. Remember her in Marvel vs. Capcom 2? Like I love that. Like she was just a really unique tool set. She uses her bones like we were talking about earlier with the like Chasm's whips. Like that's essentially what she does. She puts like points on her like skeletal bones and like whips them out at her opponents. Like I love Marrow. She's so cool, but they just don't ever do anything with her anymore. Pardon me. So yeah, not, you know, for a first episode, not really a lot to write home about. It was pretty fine. You know, it gets you back into like, oh yeah, the X-Men. I remember the X-Men. Sure. Like that's rad. There is I gotta remember if that scene is here or if it's in the next episode. Okay. So remember how you were talking about how voices don't line up, Volume? It happens here in this scene, and it's so noticeable. So I'm just gonna let it play. You can mostly see it on Rogue, like when Rogue is talking, but like
humanity had retrofitted Sentinel weaponry. Do you have any idea what that means, Gambit?
Means you get to howling like a lonely kettle left on a fiery stove. We've rodeoed more Sentinels than I care to count. And Storm and Bishop are made of sterner stuff than you think.
Rogue always come to Gambit's rescue. Rogue, the professor entrusted us.
so like you guys notice that, right? Like it happens on Gambit, it happens on Rogue.
Made of sterner stuff than you think.
Rogue always come to Gambit's rescue. Rogue.
It doesn't. The timing isn't there. It's a combination of the timing not being there and the animation for the mouth moving not being like accurate to what they're saying, right? And of course, like you don't need super accuracy because it's a cartoon. But if somebody's saying like, "Oh, like hey, like where's the professor?" At pro, he should have his mouth in a like a "oh" like sound instead of a "ah." And when Scott's talking, you can see that they really just repeat like 2 or 3 frames like it's a flash animation. Like check this out.
These beignets needed me more than you did, Mom.
That one's actually not that
Friends
bad.
of humanity had retrofitted Sentinel weaponry. Do you have any idea what that means, Gambit?
Means you get
Right? It's just like 3 frames that don't really line up with the motion or the timing of what he's doing. So it is very, very noticeable. This scene, though, was the one where I was like, and it's when Rogue starts talking. When she's talking here and walking,
on a fiery stove.
it just felt weird. It just didn't work. I don't know. It was very, 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 very odd. Oh yeah, Volume, that one too. It happened in that Jean Storm scene. That's in the next one. We'll look at that when we get over to that next episode because yeah, it does happen there. Wonder if Marrow is how they got Spike in Evolution. I have no idea actually. That's a really good question. Where is Spike? They don't even like that character is gone. It's so crazy. I was talking with Josh about it the other day, and it's just like they used him. They introduced a version of him in the comics, but it was like 1 issue, and he wasn't even like a central character, and he's never shown up again. So it's just like, and like to be honest, guys, like I don't think Spike's that bad of a character. He's harmless. He's whatever. He's your very generic like 90s cartoon diverse friend edition who's still really cool. Like I don't know, he's fine. There's no reason to like shun him off to the Shadow Realm or the Phantom Zone. We're back to the Hanna-Barbera time, 70s Yogi, Top Cat, etc. Animation also feels so fucking stiff here. Yeah, like you guys are completely on point, but I think what Timon says is really highlights how stark of a like difference or like what am I trying to say? What Timon says really highlights the problem, right? Yes, it is like the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, but you know why those Hanna-Barbera cartoons, we let them fly? Because they had limited budgets, they were working with limited tech, limited experience, and, you know, doing what they could. It's still, you know, obviously there are going to be errors, but they still put in all the effort they could. Here, you have budgets, you have Disney backing you, you have all the technology you could possibly ask for, and yet you still deliver us a very subparly animated thing. So weird. See ya to Hillam. Don't worry, we're like wrapping up. It'll probably just be like 10 more minutes on the second episode, and then we're out of here. So thank you for sticking around, amigo. It's always a pleasure to see you. I'm sure I'll talk to you over the weekend or on Twitter. So rest easy, amigo. Yeah, Shinkai. Spike was even dropped in Evolution last season when they randomly made him a Morlock. I know. I didn't get that either. Like he was the character, and then see ya. All right, like what? There's just, I don't know. I couldn't even begin to like speculate as to what boardroom decisions. Like it's not even like a culture war decision up there, right? About like, oh, are we gonna have the black character? It's just like I don't know what happened with Spike. So yeah, first episode, we're reintroduced. We get to see all the X-Men, and we learn that Magneto is now going to lead the X-Men, which leads into our second episode. Oh, I don't think I have it on the... Yeah, I don't have it on the playlist. Let me open that up for us really quick. Okay, now.
Previously
there we go.
On X-Men.
Yeah, just a recap. So, yeah, this episode is basically it is a near one-for-one adaptation of the Trial of Magneto from the comics, Uncanny X-Men number 200. For those of you who don't know the comic book version, it basically plays out very much the same as it does here, where Magneto is trying to say, you know, I've been entrusted with Charles's dream. I'm here to take over the school. The governments of the world do not believe him because of his terrorist activities. And he is brought before a tribunal of world governments to sort of have a trial. In the comics, it is the International Court of Justice in Paris. In the X-Men 97, it is the United Nations over there in New York. So that's basically what this whole bit is about. Yeah, they call for the trial of Magneto. They say, blah 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 blah. We gotta just trial of Magneto. It's based I don't really know what else to say aside from the fact that it's an adaptation of that. But one thing I do want to know, and this is where I have to give props to the writing team, right? Is that here? Let's get to this point. So this is in the comics. There is a speech that Magneto gives when he's given his chance to defend himself, and he basically goes, yes, I used force, but you guys all have nuclear weapons. Like, you threaten us every day. What are we supposed to do? Whether you like it or not, we're here. And that's just something we have to coexist, whether you like it or not. Right. And I genuinely thought that when we got here to this point in X-Men 97, we were going to get it flipped to, you have to accept us. You have to like us. You have to, mutants are everything, like blah, 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 blah. Surprisingly, that's not what happened here. This speech is like very, very close. And the thing that really stands out to me, and let me see, let me throw on the subtitles just for this part. I know they sort of like ruin it.
Was who had different believed as savior you your work wounds
Let me see.
only against my people.
Be truly to believe, Savior.
Don't go. Magneto and the
Okay.
they love a refrain. Believe differently. So then, as a to act.
Man.
Only against my people.
But okay, I can't find it, obviously, and I don't want to bore you guys with me tracking back and forth on the file. But there's a moment where he basically says the same thing, where it's like, you have to tolerate us. We're here. Like, I'm not telling you to accept us or like us, but you have to accept that we're here. And I was just like, that's sort of like a message we all sort of need to hear. Like, unfortunately, people are always going to have some issue with whatever group, whether it's regional, religious, yada, yada, yada. And you're never, ever, 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 ever going to get everybody on the same page, loving everybody like we do in all of our Kumbaya songs. Like, I'm sorry, as much as it's what we all want, never going to. I know I'm going to give a seizure. That's why I stopped going back and forth, Andrew, damn it. I recognized it. Yeah, like, so for Magneto to go, you don't have to like us, but we do have to learn how to like live around each other. I think, I don't know, man, like, just being realistic, that's like the message I think all of us need to understand, is that you might not have to like, whether it's like woke people or Kotaku or whatever, right? But we're all on this planet together, so we all have to find a way to just deal with it, because we're not getting rid of it like one another. Yes, Volume Dealer, that was the Morlocks. What was the green kid's name? I don't know if it's the same green kid. Is it Adol or Adol or something like that? Anol? That's the most recent like lizard kid in the comics. He was around during Civil War. I don't know if that's him. But yeah, that definitely was that. Oh, it's not about me. No, Andrew's not complaining that I is it Leech Shinkai? I wasn't sure if it was Leech. I wanted to say Leech. I wasn't sure if it was Leech. No, Zero. Andrew's not complaining about me going fast. He was complaining about me jumping back and forth when I was looking for that Magneto shot. That's what he was talking about. Yeah, I think we're pacing along pretty okay. But then so whoa, that got loud. The whole procession is eventually interrupted by protesters, the Friends of Humanity protesters. They break in because they're like, "Why are you giving Magneto a trial? He's a terrorist." Blah 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 blah. And that's when we get the introduction of, where is he? The Executioner. Like the classic X villain, the Executioner, actually shows up here. He's just like in the comics, he's here to like take out mutants, manipulate their genes, yada yada yada. But he becomes the sort of antagonist of this episode. And of course, I'm letting this play because it's more Cyclops moments, even though he's sort of getting the shit kicked out of him. But eventually, we get to the point where Executioner makes his way into the chamber, or into like the whatever you call it with in the UN, and he tries to assassinate. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna point this out. We actually got Psylocke in this episode, but it's Morph and like Colossus, and I know it's like a cheap out, but it's still pretty cool to see them, even though it isn't them. But yeah, I just wanted to note that because I love Cyclops or Psylocke. She's the best. But in yeah, so eventually Executioner tries to assassinate Magneto, or essentially take away his powers, and Storm takes the bullet for him. And she ends up getting depowered, and this causes Magneto to sort of flip out, and he proceeds to take the UN and Executioner. Yeah, you'll see it right here. Like, he takes them into space, and he sort of has one last discussion with them. Right? And he sort of tells them, like, and this is where I think this might be where it is, where he goes, like, I could have killed you, but we have to learn to, like, live on the same planet together. And so after this moment, he returns everybody, all of the UN judges, back to Earth, and we get so he joins the X-Men. That's basically how it goes. Everything resolves, I guess. I guess they let him off. But then ooh, flex. Yeah, I'd put Fabian Cortez at the trial as a heckler for the lulz. That would be cool. Again, why not have, like, you could play with that. I would be so up for that. But essentially, oh, wait, I'm missing something here. Yeah, Leech, and then there was another one. They were always a pair. Yeah, like, I don't remember who that other one is, right? It's been a while since I hung out with the Morlock. I know, Volume Dealer, UN judges. The scenario is very rooted in, like, the 90s when we thought that the UN was actually worth a damn, right? Like, there's a scene in the last episode where, after the Sentinels are felled, the UN, like, peacekeepers show up in, like, their blue helmets and everything, and I'm just like, huh, no, that's cute. You'd think they would actually help. Yeah, Corey, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, with modern Marvel, I'm shocked he didn't say, you gotta do better, Senator. That's why I'm so surprised here, where I'm like, they could have easily curved into the modern Marvel, like, preaching, into the chastising, but they don't. Like, they straight up say, like, okay, we're not gonna like each other, but we have to, like, just accept that we share the same space. And that's why, like, I do have to give props to the writing team so far. Admittedly, 2 episodes in, but so far, they're handling it way better than I ever would have imagined that they would have handled it. Just, like, it's insane. And again, maybe I'm just, like, so blown away that it's anything counter to what my expectation was. But yeah, so far, I'll give them, kudos for their writing. Yeah, Mags looks really cool here. It does make me think, if Magneto with the X-Men, where is the Brotherhood? The Brotherhood, I think, they dealt with that in, like, the last season. I think they're all in prison. Because remember, this is a genuine like, this picks up like a month or two after X-Men 97 or the original series or something, because obviously Henry Gyrich is still in prison for having shot Professor Xavier, and Xavier's dead and all that sort of fun stuff. So who knows? We'll probably see them eventually. Like, they've got to show up eventually. There's no way they couldn't. Yes, Timon, the Storm Gambit hair. I hate the Gambit hair. There was no reason to give him the super, like, anime Goku, like, upswirl. It didn't. He was fine with the, like, rough Cajun hair, right? Like the rough and tussle. That, to me, that's Remy. That was cool. But then yeah, the episode ends with Cable having been born, and let's see. Because yeah, then Magneto joins the X-Men, and then yeah. So I didn't really like this. This felt a little weird. With Storm being depowered, she decides, like, that night that she's going to leave the X-Men because she's no longer a mutant and she has no place there. And to me, I get it. Like, I know what you're doing with the storyline, but it felt a little too quick and melodramatic. Like, you know, you're at the X Institute. You have Beast there. You have mainly Beast, I guess. Charles Xavier is dead. So you have Beast. You could contact the Shi'ar. There are things you could go about, you know, talking to people first before blowing out and going, oh, what was me? It's all over. I have to stop. I'm out of the X-Men. And so it's just like, okay. Like, do what you got to do. But it just felt really, really, really ham-fisted at that point. Is Sabretooth going to be in this? Is that Grace Randolph? No, that's actually a comic book character. That is Valerie Cooper, the blonde. You can tell because you can listen to her talk for more than like 3 seconds. But Sabretooth, probably. We haven't had any confirmation yet, like no castings or anything, no artwork. He appears in the intro because that's where all the, you know, the lineup where they smash together. But that's all we know about good old Sabretooth right now. Then, so Storm decides to leave. The X-Men all sort of, you know, wondering, you know, where do we go next when there's a knock at the door and Morph runs over to open the door and it's Jean. There are 2 Jeans now. Oh my gosh. So we're going full Madeline Pryor here. That's really where the episode ends. So that like the writing isn't bad so far. These are very X-Men-y plot lines. Everybody sort of is still acting the way we typically would have expected them to. The animation, there's really no salvaging it right now, unless they completely revamped it in the next like 3 to 10 episodes. We're going to have to, like, if you watch this, it's going to be rough to follow along. I know, Zero. We're going Madeline Pryor. We're going to go full X here. Like, we're going full Chris Claremont melodrama, twists and turns for the sakes of twists and turns. And I hope you're all buckled up for the ride. There is, so, oh, yes, I hit it perfectly. So this is the scene where you can also notice a lot of, whatchamacallit? Oh, good, yeah, Shinkai, okay, thank you, I got it, I will touch on that, I got it. I do have to talk about that because I do hate that a lot. But in this scene, this is another instance where you can see the lip syncing just didn't work.
Was Scott, fighting by my side.
You are afraid that he will no longer leave now that Magneto has taken charge.
Can I tell you something? Judge me.
Man, we got all the shots that literally aren't their mouths.
Too harshly. Or tell Scott.
It's just off by like
my word, Jean.
A fraction, right, guys? Like, it's a fraction, but that's enough for us all to go.
When I think about the baby, his future, and if he's a mutant, how do I tell him he's different?
But then you can also see
him of it every day.
They're only using like the same 2 frames for her mouth. Like
You wish him to be born human. I have wondered what it would be like to be human. It is a tempting daydream.
But yeah, so like you're really not gonna you're not winning anybody with that animation. One thing I wanted to mention, because I brought him up earlier, trying to think of where. Okay, so yeah, let's go back to the last episode because that's the scene I know. Woo, 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 woo. Where's the party? Okay, so Morph has this habit, right, where he changes into other people to sort of like taunt and like rib his friends, but this, like, the way who he changes into just seems so cruel. Right? Like, okay, at the very beginning, there's a shot where Scott's like, I don't know how to carry on with the professor or whatever. Like, I'm so lost. It's been months. And Morph walks in as the professor and he's like, hey, Scott, like, get over it. Ha 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 ha. And Scott's like, stop, Morph. And I'm just like, I would like, that's really fucked up. Like, why would you do that? And then here, Wolverine's obviously like fuming over the fact that Jean and Scott are about to leave and the fact that Jean has a baby. And what does Morph do? He transforms into her and then starts like mocking him. And this is supposed to be seen as like an endearing quality. I'm just like, dude, fuck Morph. Like, what a gigantic asshole. Like, I don't want him anywhere around like my team, my people. Like, what? Why did you think that was a fun? It's like, you know, we've all known those people who like, they think, oh, I'm telling it like it is, or I'm a super bitch and that's like, you know, good. That's my personality. Like, fuck those people. And that's what Morph is being like. And don't get it. It was really, really off-putting. And maybe that's just because I'm older, but it's just like, you don't do that to your friends. Like, if I had a friend who was like heartbroken over the love of his life, I'm not going to start like, you know, if we're hanging out, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, you see that Instagram picture of her? Ha ha ha, it could have been you. Oh, did you see that she, you know, she got married? Ha ha, could have been you. Like, what a jack, like, who does that? Like, I absolutely hate it. 2 genes? We got 2 genes? Yeah, me at that trial, Magneto built a space cavity and just gave up on it. Mag's got no ribs, no swagger, no curly mustache, 0 out of 10. In that curly mustache bit, that gets him put in Guantanamo, okay? Not just prison. No curly mustache gets you a visit to Gitmo. Andrew says, Pryor, LOL, let's make Scott do super cool shit and then remind us how shitty a boyfriend and husband he is. I know. Like, it's not only are we about to like crap all over Scott's character because he's going to be torn between genes and also not know which one is the right one at times, and we're going to get a lot of those. I guarantee you there will be one of those scenes where like he ends up kissing Madeline and Jean walks in and goes, Scott, why? And he goes, but I thought it was you. And then it's just like, because we're not adults here and we can't talk, this becomes a problem. And here's the rest of the episode where we have to resolve it. So like, I don't know. Like it just, I'm not excited for that. I'm also really worried that it's going to sideline him, Andrew, right? Like, oh, now he has to deal with Cable and Jean and Madeline. He has no time for field work. He has no time to lead. Like, he has to stay behind at the mansion and deal with this shit. And I'm just like, but we was so cool right now. Like, leave him. That's like, I want it. Like, come on. So like, let's hope they're a little better than that, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Yeah, Timon, so crap. I can't shake the Archer feeling. Bad animation flies with comedy, not this. I think that you hit the nail on the head. It is Archer-esque, and yeah, in comedy, that stiff like movement and like delivery works because it sort of emphasizes how unrealistic and how unnatural and how sort of stupid everything is. Like, stupid in a good way, right? Like absurd. But here, when you're looking for like cohesive flow and movement and stuff, it doesn't work because it just looks too stiff, right? So like, we've all seen stop motion animations of like action figures, right? I see a couple of them every week where somebody gets a Wolverine toy and he moves around and it looks really cool, but it wouldn't be good as animation because it's just too stiff. It doesn't translate right. And that's what the 3D modeling is doing. So I'm just, yeah, I am not about it. I cannot stand it. I encourage you guys to go, maybe not watch it yourselves if you don't have Disney Plus or anything. Like, this isn't something you should go out of your way to watch, but if you have access, or if you go on YouTube and you watch like the HD clips of it, go watch the fight scenes in particular, especially the Sentinel one we watched last week, and then the one with Scott that we watched earlier today. They're very, very, very like stiff or not stiff. You can tell that they're 3D models. I think I've said it before. It's like, it looks like they ripped them out of a mobile game and threw them into a cutscene, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It feels cheap, just like with the text we were talking about earlier. That workaround feels cheap. Shinkai says Morph isn't a troll, at least not after Mr. Sinister. I mean, maybe this is more Mr. Sinister programming. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. You got me. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, right, Volume Dealer. It is weird. Like, it's one of those things where you're trying to make me like this character and sympathize with him and be like, oh, cool, it's Morph. But you make him just the worst, most insufferable asshole with like nothing to redeem himself. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't, I don't know. It's bad writing. It's a very bad bit of writing in an otherwise like pretty good job. Andrew says, Jean greater than Madeline, greater than Jean, greater than Emma, greater than Jean, and on 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 and on. Yeah, right? Like, welcome to the Cyclops flow chart. Like, that's both a ranking chart and then like a flow chart. Flex says, although it's probably not a ranking chart because Emma would obviously be at the very, very top. Flex says, I will forgive everything I've seen so far if they give us a Deadpool episode. There's a pretty good chance, honestly. Like, again, no confirmations. I'm totally speculating here, but he's popular. He's got the movie coming out. And then if you guys remember in Ultimate Alliance 3, when they introduced the X-Men in the X-Men level, he's there and he becomes a playable character there. So they're obviously open to having him as part of the overall mythos. And we're just going to have to sort of cross our fingers, hope and see. Timon says, I'll wait till someone uses AI to fix this shit, if ever. I mean, I just, you know what I'm waiting for? We're going to have somebody on YouTube, some amateur animator who goes and is like, I want to redo this, like, one scene. And he's going to redo, like, the Cyclops fight. And it's going to look incredible. And it's going to really be able to emphasize, like, 3D models bad, drawn good. Like, the way, the approach, the techniques, just all of that stuff wrapped together. Yeah, Volume Dealer, fucking with Logan isn't a good idea. And yet they try to present him as, like, his best friend. Like, that. There are a couple scenes in here where it's like, why? So they're best friends, but he's also being, like, the biggest asshole to him. Like, why not dice him? Just dice him, Wolverine. I don't get it. And then, yeah, see, Andrew, I was right. I knew it. As soon as I said it, I was like, I have to correct myself. Emma would definitely be at the top of his list. Yes, I knew it. I knew it. Especially in that Gene ranking or the Scott rankings. Before we wrap, there is one more criticism I do have to give for this show. This one's easy. Don't worry, Andrew. You're not going to get a seizure off of this one, I hope. But where? Okay. Okay, so obviously this is like, it's been 30 years or so since X-Men the Animated Series. And kudos to X-Men 97. They got back a lot of the original voice cast. But here's the thing, guys. A lot of that original voice cast hasn't been doing anything for these last 30 years. Or at least hasn't been voice acting. And so combine it, rust with just age. And we end up with some really, really, really rough deliveries. Especially from, unfortunately, Wolverine himself. Like, check this out.
Justice is overdue.
Any updates?
Cooper's listing every nasty step Magneto's taken from here to Asteroid M. Folks outside are pissed he's even getting a trial. Can't say I blame him.
Have you seen Scott?
Oh, he's there with the others, making sure Magneto doesn't pull one of his stunts.
Oh. He didn't tell me.
A lot of that going around lately.
Right? Yeah, Andrew, you can hear it, right? Like, Cal Dodd does not sound hot as Wolverine.
Oh, he's there with the others, making sure Magneto doesn't pull one of his stunts.
Oh. He didn't tell me.
A lot of that going around lately.
Like, it feels like they're trying to do an imitation of themselves, and it's unfortunate. Like, I'm not gonna blame them, because yeah, they got pulled out of retirement for one last job, but it's very noticeable, and it makes everything just sort of off-putting. Yeah, Gene sounds great. That's to be expected. It's really, really, really apparent with the more iconic voices from the show. So like Wolverine, Beast is pretty bad. Mags is a little different. There was another one. Oh, Rogue and Gambit. They definitely sound older and out of play. Rogue especially. So, yeah, like that is another. So that's why I sort of said at the beginning, right? Like it's a very mixed bag. No, I don't think that it was the Logan voice actor, right? I'm pretty sure the Logan voice actor is alive and kicking. Yeah, Cal Dodd. Yeah, Cal Dodd's still around. Let's see. Somebody did die and they replaced him. Oh, it was Cyclops. That's who died. Cyclops was voiced by Norm Spencer back in the day, but he died in 2020. So now it's voiced by Ray Chase, who you guys might know as. He's actually got a lot of credits. He's a very big anime dub voice actor. He was in, of course, English dubs. He's Tien in Dragon Ball. He's Donovan in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He's Gendo Ikari in the Netflix dub of Evangelion. He was Etrigan in the Justice League Dark animated movie from a couple years back. He was L in Xenoblade Chronicles X. I know Andrew's going to know that one off the top of his head. Oh my God, guys, holy shit. I didn't even realize that this was the same person, but holy fuck, we just went completely full circle here at the end of the show to like wrap this shit up in a perfect bow. You know who else Ray Chase voiced? Noctis from Final Fantasy freaking 15. Like, wow, we literally just went right back. We wrapped everything up in a perfect little bow. That is incredible. So, wrong button. But yeah, so, yes, I'm right there with you, Timon. I'm right there with you guys. Like, I feel old knowing how long it's been since that animated series debuted. Yeah, Andrew. Oh, Andrew knew it already. He was like, yeah. He's coming. Volume says, I like the Rogue actress. Her voice is totally unique. Her voice is unique. Like, she still sounds like Rogue, but it's sort of like what I was saying, right? Like, she's better than Logan, but there's still like, you could have used like a month or two of like practice getting back into voice acting before you hopped right back in the booth. Awesome. Yeah. Zero says, I'm set up RE5 life regret stream because if not, I lose my damn streak. Don't worry. We are very much at the end. I've got 2 sentences to say, and then I'll be wrapping up. We'll have your last call, and I will see you over on your stream, Zero. But yeah, so to wrap it all up, that, X-Men 97, you can kind of see why I am so, not conflicted, but I am very in the middle about it. Its writing impressed me because I had very low expectations for it. Its fight choreography and general composition is actually really, really impressive, and I didn't expect that. However, the issues with the animation, the issues with the voice acting, and the issues with Morph are that they're too noticeable not to sort of give a highlight to them and include that in the coverage. So, yeah, let's see what happens. But at this rate, you guys didn't completely shit the bed, right? So I guess that is something worth complimenting. Yes, Rogue is great, whether Goth or Southern Belle. There's literally no bad version of Rogue. I love the Evolution version. I love the 97 version. I love the... I kind of like the Anna Paquin version in the very first movie before they completely shoved her character to the side. But yes, guys, with that amazing bow wrap up with Final Fantasy 15 and X-Men, we are at the end of tonight's show. I want to thank every single person who stopped by to hang out. We had Volume, Zero, Shinkai, Andrew, Flex, Society was here for a little bit. I think I already said Shinkai. I really hope I said Shinkai. Eccentric Banana was here for a little bit. Thank you guys always for stopping by. You guys, the fact that you watch lets me do this, and I love hosting this show because I just want to make sure, life's kind of crappy, especially in our entertainment sphere. So if I can do something to kick your weekend off on a right foot, I'm happy to do it. And I love doing it. I love talking to all of you guys. You guys are the highlight of my Fridays, of my weeks. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. As always, if you want to see more of me, you can follow me right there on Twitter at Kabuto Rider Mav. If you want to see more of me live, you can catch me on the Bounding Into Comics channel on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for the 01 stream, where Josh, Jacob, Cider, and I break down the biggest news, pop culture news of the week. So that's where we tackle the bigger topics, your movies, your Star Wars, your Marvel. If you want to see more of this show, as always, you can stop by same Mav time, save Mav channel next week for another episode of The Good, the Mav, the Ugly. As always, our topics are picked throughout the week. It's sort of whatever comes up and whatever you guys want to talk about. So we'll see what we talk about next week. Hopefully we get some sort of indication that Marvel wants to bring Ben back to normal. I'm still obsessed with it. I can't get over it. But yes, with that, guys, it is time for your last call for last minute news. Tonight, we're sticking in the X theme, and this might be a shot some of you folks have seen, some of you haven't. But let's take it away.
Logan, if we do this, we do it as a team. Are you gonna have a problem taking orders? I don't know. Give me one. Put this on. Whose is it? This one mine.
Yes, so in case you guys haven't seen that before, that is a deleted scene from the very first X-Men movie where it was supposed to show how Wolverine got his suit. Don't know why they cut it. I think it's a really good scene between them to show their dynamics, but also to show Logan's, maturing a little bit. Amazing scene. Love James Marsden as Cyclops. Obviously, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. With that, guys, take it easy this weekend. Go do something fun. Relax, play some video games. I'm sure I'll talk to most of you at some point in the next few days. And yeah, take it easy, and I'll see you next week.
As the creator of Mara Jade,
Wait! I am not the creator of Mara Jade, and I want you to get out of this office right now.
I'm sorry, Zeb.
No way.
You brought you brought it on yourself.
I don't want you here.
I'm so
Out.
sorry, George. I didn't think it would go like this.
Out.
Ted, I got your voucher.
Out! There.
I'm sorry about that. I'm so sorry. We'll have him like burned and we'll
I don't even
execute
know
him.
who that guy is. So I